Well, good morning. Tonight is the night you can rub elbows with one of the biggest stars on the Baltimore Ravens. The Ed Black Courage Awards host the holiday party tonight at the Evolved Hospitality Catering Hall in Falston with special guest host Zay Flowers. The event includes a live podcast show, audience Q&A, meet and greet, and photo op with the Ravens star wide receiver. Enjoy a tailgate buffet from three-time Best of Baltimore chef Zach Trabold of the renowned The Local Restaurants. Donate a toy to support the children at St. Vincent's Villa and receive an autographed picture from Zay. Tickets are $100 each. They're now available. bidpal.net/holizay24. That's bidpal.net/holizay24. Good morning. It's a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we will talk about a busy weekend for the Orioles, of all things. Tyler O'Neill's an Oriole. Gary Sanchez is an Oriole. Lou Merloni, former Red Sox infielder, analyst for NESN, as well as radio host WEEI up in Boston. We'll catch you up with him, talk about what the Orioles are getting in Tyler O'Neill. He'll probably have a thought or two about Gary Sanchez as well, being in the division. So we'll catch up with Lou Merloni in just a few minutes. Also this morning, former Ravens offensive coordinator, NFL head coach Marty Mornhinweg will join us. We'll talk about the Ravens Ales coming out of the bye. Also later on in the program, it's a Monday, so we'll chat with Jeremy Conn. A lot of other things that we're going to do. It was a really busy weekend. I'm going to be writing specifically about the Orioles today for PressBoxOnline.com because in a way it was pleasant. I talked last week about their need to kind of just do something, right? Like do something. Show this fan base that there is something different about this ownership group than the last regime. Do something. And that's not, when we say that, we don't really mean it because you want them to do something meaningful, not just something for the sake of doing it. But you do it. Do it. Don't just sit around and wait and bring in reclamation projects and, somebody who had 8 games of Major League experience 3 years ago but has actually stunk in the minors ever since and say, yeah, but I think there's an upside. Like that, we're hoping that those days would be over in Baltimore and that like in the offseason when the team's good and you have a chance to do something, you'd instead do what's necessary in order to fortify that group to give them the best chance to go win. That was the hope. And so just hearing the words Orioles, multi-year contract. You know how long it's been since the Orioles had signed a free agent to a multi-year contract?
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody shared it over the weekend.
Was it Alex Cobb? I don't know.
I think it was.
Was it really?
Yeah, I think it was Alex Cobb.
Jeez.
Let me double check this and make sure that I have it right. Hang on a second. Hang on. Everybody chill out. Just chill out over there for a second. Stop screaming at me. Yes. Ben Krimmel, who works for SNY in New York. The streak is over in Baltimore. The Orioles signed a player to a multi-year deal for the first time in 2,454 days. 6 years, 8 months, 17 days after Alex Cobb signed the O-sign outfielder Tyler O'Neill, but with an opt-out.
So first time under the Elias regime that they've...
Now, I don't want to overreact to Tyler O'Neill, and we'll talk more about Tyler O'Neill here in a second. But what I'm writing about is like that just make us feel feelings again. Allow me to know that I can still bleed. Cut me. Oh yeah, I do bleed. I'm still alive. And just hearing the Orioles connected with players, not connected like they're poking around on, but signing players is enough in mid-December, a time where the Orioles have not been active almost ever.
What are we talking about? Last year they got the big
oh yeah.
They got the big guy.
Yeah. In December?
Yeah.
Yeah, who was the one?
Well, he closed a bunch of games for him.
Did they?
Yeah.
Or
Definitely closed them.
Yeah, a couple of them. It was pleasant. You were like, "Oh, okay, this is a thing. This is good. This is good." And it immediately comes on the exact same day And I got to be honest with you. I think the report had actually come out earlier, and I just didn't notice it because I was busy working 1,000 basketball games this weekend. But the report the same day from Ken Rosenthal at The Athletic, and Ken Rosenthal and Will Sasson, I believe, was the other author on this story.
Not Will Sasso.
Not comedic, brilliant comedic actor Will Sasso, comedic genius. I actually really enjoyed him in the television program Loudermilk.
Oh,
it was a good one. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Three Stooges, and I was like,
no, certainly not that. I mean, I did enjoy him on what the hell was the show that he was on? Mad TV. I did enjoy him on Mad TV. So anyway, the moral of the story being, they report that the Baltimore Orioles are not interested in signing any of the top free agent pitchers, or at least 3 specific ones, including one that I think a lot of us believed was kind of a golden goose. Apparently not interested in Nick Pivetta, not interested in Sean Manaea, and not interested in Max Fried. And you would say, why? They're good. Well, yes, but they're players who declined qualifying offers from their teams, meaning that you would have to give up draft pick compensation in order to sign them. And apparently, according to The Athletic, that's the unique reason why the Orioles aren't interested in them. Not because of their caliber of starting pitching, not because of what they may or may not do on the baseball field, but uniquely for that reason. And whatever positives I feel about them being active and signing baseball players. And to be clear, Tyler O'Neill and Gary Sanchez does not an offseason make. You're at best negligible. Like, you can make an argument that Tyler O'Neill at his best offers you something. It's certainly different than Anthony Santander in that he hits the other guys really well. Although Anthony Santander kind of hit them all.
Yeah.
So, Tyler O'Neill's not an upgrade over Anthony Santander. He can mash the ball, and it gives them something they didn't have. They had a problem with right-handed bats. They needed a right-handed bat. Where Tyler O'Neill is between being a legitimate middle-of-the-order hitter and really just a platoon guy, I don't know the answer to that. We'll try to find out a little bit more in a minute. The numbers aren't clear about that to me. Gary Sanchez is probably an offensive upgrade over James McCann, but again, I don't want to oversell that either. And does it come with a step back in some of the intangibles that James McCann brought you? These 2 moves are the start of a complete offseason. These 2 moves are, okay, that's a good taste. Now what else are you doing to make the team better? Because this maybe helps in fortifying what you're going to lose, but how are you making it better than it was a year ago? And one of those answers would be, well, you're going to need some, still you could argue not to make them better because you're about to lose Corbin Burns, so it's still kind of negligible. But you would need top-notch starting pitching. The Orioles are more interested in Nathan Eovaldi, who, I get it, the numbers are good. I'm not saying no in a vacuum on Nathan Eovaldi. I'm saying Nathan Eovaldi and what? And the answer apparently is not the guys at the top. And that's what makes this deflating. That even when there's good news, even when there's something positive, it comes with the kick in the pants of, right, but we're still going to try to win a fight with one hand tied behind our back. I'm not Les Snead. This isn't F them picks. I recognize the value of picks. Drafting and developing has gotten the Orioles here. This is the type of pick that if you give up, it might be Gunnar Henderson. Although if you lose Corbin Burns, you're getting the pick back. So I don't know. It's a conversation for another day. It's that you're here. This is the moment. Worrying about what a 40th overall pick or 38th or whatever it would be might do down the road right now when the core is here. They're here. Is badass to me. And if you don't think Sean Manaea or Max Fried are good enough, that's a completely different conversation, man. I don't know how you'd feel that way, but all good. If they can't help you in a World Series, don't sign them. But to not be interested because you've got to give up a draft pick is bat-ass. This is the moment. Remember David Rubenstein? I'm racing to the finish line. How is racing to the finish line measured by saying, but we definitely can't give up a post-first-round draft pick in order to try to get the best players? How does that compute? Not that I'm, enamored with Nick Pivetta or even Manaea, but, you need stuff at the top of your rotation. Just hoping that it's going to be Grayson Rodriguez again. I'm all for it. I would love for that to be the case, but can I plan around that? No. So, yeah, they sign a player. They sign two players, which is nice for the Orioles because they don't do that a lot. But to come with the caveat of this report about them apparently not being interested in players who decline qualifying offers is just extraordinarily frustrating. Let's find out more about at least one of the players they did sign. Let's bring in one of our friends, a former Boston Red Sox. You hear him on WEI in Boston. You see him on NESN. He is Lou Merloni, and he's with us this morning here on GCR. Lou, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Anytime, Glenn. By the way, you're absolutely right. God, you're in Baltimore. You got one of the best farm system and kids everywhere. What do you care about a draft pick for right now? Try to win in the big leagues.
Lou, I'm sorry. I didn't bring you on to do this with you, but
no, it's good.
It just feels like the last ownership. It feels like when Dan Duquette went on MLB Network Radio and said, we fundamentally don't agree in the posting system, so we're not going to be involved in Shohei Ohtani. Well, thank God you did that, right? Thank God you fought against the posting system because, boy, you were so much better off than if you had not that Shohei Ohtani was ever going to Baltimore. But you get the point. It just feels like you're purposely tying a hand behind your back again. And instead of saying, we're going to get the best players to try to give us a chance to win, you're saying, but only if they meet our specific qualifications. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, what's going on down there. And listen, people in Boston are panicking too. Everybody's going nuts. It's early. Let's see how this thing unfolds. But, the Orioles right now, I don't want to say that, they're in danger. Look at the Toronto Blue Jays. That would be my biggest concern. All these great young players, and it just never turns into anything. So, when the Orioles changed and they went out and traded for Corbin Burns, there was fear in the AL East thinking, oh, no.
Yeah.
Prospects, and now they're going to spend. The fact that he may not return or they're not going to extend him, and Santander leaving, it makes me wonder, is anything changed other than the owners throwing hats in the stands to people? Or are they going to start spending and hopefully try to win?
They've got to prove that in the coming week. That's the reality. They have to prove that. And right now, at the moment, what you're saying is exactly what a lot of people in Baltimore are feeling, which is, boy, it just feels like the name has changed. It doesn't feel like anything about the actual leadership is different. But they've got time. I don't want to overreact to it. Let me get into what they did do. They signed Tyler O'Neill to a 3-year deal. I'm really confused, Lou, between where Tyler O'Neill is. But I know he can hit the cover off a baseball. I understand that. But where is he between genuine, everyday middle of the order bat, and more like a really, really good platoon player? Where is he between those two things?
Yeah, he's probably in between there, and a lot of it has to do with his health. First off, you did get rid of that eyesore in left, right? You guys have finally brought it back to a normal ball field,
in between the two. It's going to be It's not going to be as awful as it was last year or the year before.
Good.
It won't be back to where it was originally. It's going to be somewhere between those two things. But, yes, it should obviously help Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah, and I think that's he's kind of in between, and a lot has to do with health. You know, like the games he played last year, obviously there's a serious, health concerns with him as far as getting out in the field, but I thought they managed it well. If he could spend some time at DH, I think that would really help me. I don't know if that's the plan or not. I thought defensively, earlier in the year, I thought he played real well in the outfield, but as the year went on, you could sort of see the body, right? The aches and pains that we've heard so much about really slowing him down and not looking right in the field. But Great guy. I've enjoyed the experience of Tyler O'Neill. I think he will help. He obviously has a lot of power. There's a lot of strikeouts. But the playing time and where he is has a lot to do with his health because you do have to manage it. I felt like they managed it, and I looked up, and I was surprised he only played maybe 113, 115 games. So that's a concern.
What about just the numbers again? Obviously, when you look at Tyler O'Neill, some of the power numbers, as I mentioned, they jump off the page at you. And, you certainly, when you look at the splits, you say to yourself, I can see the value of having that guy in the lineup against lefties. But can Tyler O'Neill, really produce the way that you would need him to against righties to justify him playing even when he's healthy every day?
Yeah, and you're right. Against lefties, it was – he just absolutely punished them. And a lot of people say, well, turn him into a platoon player. Well, sometimes you need those at-bats against righties to kind of just stay in the flow of it. And if you're not a platoon player, you're just not used to playing just against lefties, so you won't punish them as much as maybe you do. But I think for him, I do wonder, because at Fenway Park, I think the K rate was up a lot. And I wonder if, he's a pull-side guy, and teams just sort of approached it like, we're not going to let you pull the ball in the green monster. We're going to pitch you away, soft away, and he was susceptible to that. So, I wonder if the approach at Fenway caused a lot of those strikeouts. He had stretches where he looked like he was an everyday guy, hit third for you, no problem at all. And then there was just that 5 for 35 with 20 strikeouts, where you were like, uh-oh. But it's about health, and I think he'll be better against righties, maybe outside of Fenway where teams really don't allow to kind of come in on you as much as you would like somewhere else.
He is Lou Merloni. He's with us here on GCR. Lou, Tyler, played a little bit more in left field than he did in right field last season. According to Baseball Savant, the range was bad. Presuming Colton Cowser is going to be the Orioles left fielder, and so they would just be looking at him playing in right. Would you be comfortable with him being in right field more often than not?
Yeah, I would. Again, health is an issue. I think Santander's out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's and the range, as I mentioned, I felt like early April, May he was fine. All right, and then the aches came, and he looked like he wasn't moving as much. But right field's a good spot for him there. He's got the arm for it. There's no question about it. So I think that'd probably be a good fit.
Anything to be said for if you're going to lose Anthony Santander, and I think that's what most of us assume based on this, that you just have to have someone who's a threat to hit the ball 400 feet every time he steps to the plate. That's something that Tyler O'Neill can bring, even if he's obviously not going to do it every time he steps to the plate.
Yeah. I always felt like Santander was the most underrated hitter in the game. He doesn't get enough attention, and to me that's a big loss. When you got such a young group down there, you add a veteran, keep a veteran like Santander, and you add a veteran like Corbin Burns. I guarantee Grayson Rodriguez is going to talk about how much Corbin helped him prepare and how Santander helped these young kids prepare and learn how to be a pro. So, Neil's now a veteran. I don't think he's the complete hitter that maybe Santander is, but you gotta replace him with somebody, and that's a couple of big voids for a young team that's looking for that veteran leadership.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It sounds like you're saying that you think this is a negative for the Orioles. It sounds like that's sort of that in all, you'd rather be an Orioles team with Anthony Santander than an Orioles team with Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah.
Yep.
And part of that is because of how much I value Santander, playing against him. And because I feel like, to me, Santander kind of reminds me of Teoscar Hernandez when he left Toronto. Like, we go up to Toronto and Teoscar was here and you're like, uh-oh. And then when he left, it just felt like something was missing. Like, that last bat behind Vladdy, that last bat behind these kids, it didn't seem as difficult to get through anymore. And, Tyler O'Neill, I like I said, this isn't about you got a bad player and a bad person. He's an awesome dude. His arm's absolutely enormous. He could lift the ballpark if he wants to. The guy is jacked. It's just that I really, really think Santander is an underrated guy, and whoever gets him it's a big boost to a lineup.
So do you, if you look at the Orioles, if we assume, and I realize that we're making some assumptions in the process, but if we assume that what happened last year with Adley Rutschman is not a sign of things to come, that it's an anomaly, that he's going to be more Adley Rutschman-like this season, and Jordan Westburg continues on this path, and Jackson Holliday looks more making those assumptions, which again I don't know at the moment, but I'm just given their talent level, I feel like this is how the Orioles have to operate. when you look at this lineup as constructed, if there isn't another significant bat brought in, do you think that this is a lineup that can be good enough to win a World Series?
Personally, no.
Okay.
And that's just, listen, I think I think it can still be a very good lineup. I just don't believe in winning with kids. And we're playing over here at the same game over here in Boston. It's like, by kids, I mean like pre-arbitration. Like, I need 5 or 6 years of guys that have been through it before. Now, you guys have been to the playoffs and you've kind of experienced it. And
haven't won a playoff game.
Well, but that experience.
Haven't won one.
Yeah, but you know what? That experience matters. I just don't think you win with a bunch of kids. I really don't. Up and down your lineup. Like show me the team that's ever done that. And same thing with the rotation or in that bullpen that comes in has been there before. So is it still going to be a team that's going to compete for an AL East? Absolutely. But as you mentioned, he's got a lot on his plate. Adley's got to get back to where he was.
Yeah.
Westbrook, Cowser. Gunner's an absolute stud. I don't worry about him one bit, but that lineup it's really young.
All right. What would you do?
Trade some of those prospects, will you? Trade some of those prospects and bring in some veterans already. Let's go.
I am absolutely in favor of having those conversations. And if the answer is that they're not gonna, I'm with you that I still think they could use one more bat somewhere. But again, the problem being now, if Tyler O'Neill's going to be playing in right field very often, where's Heston Kjerstad playing? What is the point of having Heston Kjerstad if you just don't have anywhere for him to get at bats? Why keep hoarding all of these guys that you clearly can't play every day? And they ended up trading away Connor Norby. Not that I think Connor Norby is going to be a rock star, but I think that he might be a qualified major league hitter. And they traded him for Trevor Rogers last year because they just sort of got to a point where they were like, well, we got to move him. We're not doing anything with him. And that's, I think, a problem that this organization is dealing with right now is that instead of being proactive, they're getting to a point where they're looking up and being like, well, this guy's 25 years old. We don't have a spot for him. We just can't keep holding on to him, and it ends up becoming an issue for this organization.
Yeah, at the end of the year, maybe they give you a plaque, you know what I mean, for having the best minor league farm system.
Yeah.
But they give out World Series rings when you win in the big league.
I prefer those.
Yeah. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I was a month old the last time one of those occurred here in Baltimore, Lou, so I'm in favor of it. Obviously, I guess it's good news for all of us. Orioles fans, Red Sox fans don't see eye to eye a lot, but good news for everybody that Juan Soto is out of the division. What did you make of it? I get it. It's a unique age. We don't see players like this get to free agency much, if at all, at that age in the prime of their career. But that's still an extraordinary number that we're talking about, and you almost wonder if anyone can live up to it.
Yeah, the Red Sox, I knew they weren't going to really be involved. They weren't going to be the highest bidder. We knew that. And, of course, if they had signed him, I would love it because he's that impact of a bat. But he is a bat. He just got more money than the reigning National League MVP, who, by the way, is also with baseball in the world, which is crazy. He got that kind of cash. But someone's willing to pay it. I'm happy he's out of New York because, as you guys know, living through Soto and Judge 4 or 5 times a game, give you some agita, and I don't want anything to do with that anymore. So that is nice. But you move on because to me, it's like building the team for the Red Sox, or even in your case, the Orioles, nothing to do with Soto. So just go do what you have to do, and hopefully you can compete because now it's wide open. Soto's out with the Yankees. They got a lot of rebuilding to do too.
I guess the good news for them is that they'll be able to use Soto more frequently because baseball's got this brilliant idea to just let whoever hit, let the dads hit in big spots. I think it's great, Lou. I'm sure you're also a huge fan of it, and just another bang-up idea for Major League Baseball. Just tremendous stuff.
It's the worst idea I've ever heard, to be perfully honest with you. And here's the thing: it's like just slow down. You've made some nice changes to the game. Can we just let it breathe a little bit? You've hit on a few things. We really enjoy it. Just stop trying to make things up, just to try to bring in a new rule every year.
Right. At one point, what do you say? Hey, the 8th inning runs are going to be worth 2. Everybody tune in for the 8th inning. The runs are all going to be worth 2. At some point, you got to be willing to say it's far. And everybody does hey, we all hated the extra inning rule. Right. You're right. We were all wrong about that. The extra inning rule has been good and has worked because it's in the extra innings. Because you acknowledge that you're playing a 9-inning baseball game. A full baseball game has been played. If you try to do it in the 3rd inning, as much as, me personally, I love it. But if you try to do it in the 3rd inning, I would say get the entire F out of here with that. It's farcical. It's not baseball. We all have to be willing to step in and say, this is a farce and this is one of the biggest farces I've ever seen. Lou, what all can we plug for you, my friend?
Oh, no, man, we're good. I'm just working around Twitter trying to deal with the crazies as everybody does when it comes to team building, and I'm enjoying the off season. I'm just chilling, hanging out, waiting for spring training.
Please ask the Red Sox to continue not signing baseball players because that would be good news for us. At Lou Merloni.
And please tell the Orioles to only care about their minor league prospects.
No doubt, man. Always be ranked number one. Hang the banner, my friend. Hey, Lou, really appreciate you, man. Thanks for doing this morning. We will talk to you soon, all right?
Anytime. You have a great week.
Thanks, Lou. You too. Lou Merloni with us here on GCR from NESN and WEI up in Boston with some thoughts on Tyler O'Neill. And, yeah, it's certainly not anything that's going to make you say, oh, hell yeah. Now I was on the fence, but now I'm fired up. That's not a great sign when Lou Merloni's like, I really like the guy. Really like him. When it starts with that, it's just never a great sign. I know as a guy that says it. Like I remember being on Rocky Boyman's show when they signed Geno Stone. And I was just like, yeah, I really like Geno Stone. Really like the guy. Like, you just knew that whatever I was about to say coming out of that is, probably wouldn't have done this. Probably would have said, nah, let somebody else be the team to pay that much. But hey, what did I know? The Bengals defense is awesome. I mean, they showed me. They're killing it this year defensively. So, egg on my face, I guess. Yeah, I'm not. I don't want to be too down about Tyler O'Neill because in a vacuum, you didn't. Like, we do this with Anthony Santander and Tyler O'Neill, but as of yesterday, you didn't have Anthony Santander on your baseball team. So we have to say the baseball team is better today than it was Saturday morning when we woke up. But is it better than the last team that we saw? And was the last team that we saw even good enough? You got to get better. Where are you getting better? And to say, there's a lot of people this weekend that are doing that. Hey, the billionaire owner of the Mets that wanted to get better, he just that's not fair. Because it doesn't. I know it worked for the Dodgers. Signing the best player to a historic contract does not guarantee that you're going to win championships. But swimming in the top or in the deeper end of the pool, that would be a pleasant change of pace for how this team needs to get better. We'll come back in. We'll talk some football. Marty Mornhinweg, former Ravens offensive coordinator, joins us next. It's a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Visit Harford County this holiday season for a brand new event. You'll feel like you stepped into a holiday movie. Harford Holidays is overflowing with the spirit of the holiday season. You'll be amazed by the jaw-dropping light displays, thrilled by a visit to Santa's workshop, and have the holiday time of your life with sleigh rides, a special vendor village, s'mores making stations, and so much more. It's a holiday light experience, new at Ripken Stadium, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, December 6th through December 22nd. For ticket information, head to visitharford.com. You'll have the happiest holiday season ever.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin. and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Brooks Dubose profiles Maryland basketball forwards Derek Queen and Julian Reese as the Baltimore-built duo reunites in College Park with hopes of bringing the Terps back to prominence. Also inside, meet college basketball players from all of the area's D1 programs. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, where you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Yeah, later on we will go over picks. Turns out I should have stuck with my own picks. It's cool. It's this week clinched it, by the way. It's over. Dude, did you look?
I don't think. Well, it's not clinched.
It's
a lot of time.
It's all but clinched. It's all but over. I'm so far behind now. It's insane. It's insane. There is little drama left, but we'll get to that a little bit later on this morning. Also, some thoughts on the college football playoff now being set. But with that said, really important, I need you to fill up our bowl pick'em. It's imperative. I need you to get in today. Thank you to Nick Kelly who got in. Nick, I'll forward you. I promise you, I'll get you the link. We've had a few people get in, but we got to start filling it up because the games start on Saturday. So we only have one total week to fill up our bowl pick'em. Here's the way it works. It's $20. Half of the money goes to the winner. Half of the money goes to our charitable drive to buy toiletries and underwear for those in need at Helping Up Mission. $20 gets you in. Glenn Clark on Venmo. Glenn Clark 180 on PayPal. Glenn Clark Radio on Cash App. Once you send, then hit me up, glennclarkradio@gmail.com or at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Just let me know, hey, I'm Dave. I got in. We'll get you the link. We'll get you into the bowl pick'em. We couldn't appreciate it anymore. We got to get this thing moving today, tomorrow. I want to fill this up. We want to reach the $3,000 mark total for what we're doing to buy toiletries and underwear for those who need it at Helping Up Mission. We thank you in advance. Get in today. Don't waste time. Let's fill up our charity bowl pick'em. Appreciate it as always. Speaking of people who appreciate it as always, joining us now here on GCR, former offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, man who's living the good life out west, just enjoying things. He's like Yellowstone. He is Mr. Marty Mornhinweg, and he is back with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Glenn, we got a little snow up here in Missoula, Montana. Hey, Yellowstone. They've kind of ruined the thing. In fact, my wife Lindsay and I were watching the last episode last night. It wasn't as good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not as good. we got to get this thing going in Yellowstone.
I feel like they've like tried spinning it off. I think they got a little too big, and they forgot they needed to make a great television show in the process. Like they still needed to work on that. Coach, let's we can talk. You and I tell you what, one day down the road, maybe we just do a Yellowstone podcast, the two of us. We'll work on that eventually.
I like it.
But right now, it's a weird feeling, the weird vibe that we have in Baltimore at the moment. Like, we know this is a good football team, but it's a football team that's sitting at 8-5, that's 2 games behind in the AFC North, a Steelers team that we don't know is actually better than the Ravens. It just feels like the Ravens continue to kind of trip all over themselves. What do you make of a good football team that yet is sitting here with 5 losses late in the season?
Now, Glenn, you hit the nail on the head. The Ravens are better than the Steelers. It hasn't shown yet, but that's not a bad thing, because what do you want to do? You want to be playing your very best down the stretch and into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's what the Ravens are going to end up doing. The Steelers have a brutal end of schedule type of 3 games at the end. Brutal. So the Ravens may end up catching them if the Ravens play their best ball down the stretch and into the playoffs.
So there's a few levels of this, Coach. And I want to fall on your experience as a head coach to ask you the first one, because the first one is, it'd be easy for a lot of people to say, well, if your kicker had just made some kicks, maybe you're not in this spot. And you, of course, know the greatness of Justin Tucker, and you saw it firsthand, what it could do for an offense to have a weapon like Justin Tucker to go get you points in situations where maybe you hadn't even fully earned those points. But what do you do as a head coach when you're in a spot like this, where you know that someone is capable of being great, but they are far from great at the moment? It's not just that he's off by Justin Tucker standards. He's off by NFL standards. He's at the bottom of the barrel for kickers in the league this season. The Ravens are saying, we're just going to keep riding with him and hope that he figures it out. But by doing that, you run the risk of it costing you more games and maybe costing you what it is that you're trying to accomplish this season.
No. Keep your trust in the great Justin Tucker, one of the great kickers ever in the history of football. If you haven't kicked for years and years in the NFL, you haven't been in a slump. He's in a little bit of slump. So here's what you do, right? And I'm sure it's been done. John calls him into his office and goes like this. Okay, tell me, what's your biggest concern? Boom. Oh, it's my plant foot, or oh, it's my swing foot, or oh, it's my whatever is first in his mind. That's the only thing that you'll focus on. It's kind of like the golf swing. Kickers and golf swings are correlated just a little bit, right? You can think about one thing, maybe 2, right? But if you think about 4 or 5 different things, it goes bust. Think about one thing, the most important thing. Think about that. Get back on track. And here's my thought. Justin Tucker will go about 10 for 10 down the stretch. You know what I mean? So keep your trust in Justin Tucker, one of the greatest kickers ever in all of football. I remember when I was coordinating for the Baltimore Ravens, and it would be at the end of the half or end of the game. Just make the kick a little easier on Justin. Gain 5 or 6 yards and make it a 52-yard kick rather than a 60-yard kick. Make it a 44-yard kick rather than a 48-yard kick. So that's what you do with Justin Tucker. Keep your trust in Justin Tucker. It's that simple.
Coach, it's going to be similar to another topic I'm going to bring up in a second, but I wonder how important it is, what the players feel. Because, if they got to a point where they said, look, we love this guy, we know what he can do, but we're busting our ass out there, and we're losing games that we shouldn't be losing, is there a point at which if the attitude changes in the locker room, then you have to reflect that, and you have to say, maybe we do need to bring someone else in? Like, does that part of this matter in how you handle Justin Tucker?
Hasn't even crossed John Harbaugh's mind.
Okay.
Hasn't even crossed
Okay.
the mind of anybody in the locker room. Look, Justin Tucker has earned – it's kind of like Deion Sanders getting beat deep on a couple of balls, right? Back in the day. I would never throw it to Deion's side, by the way. Just keep Deion 10 yards away from the football.
Right.
So Justin Tucker in that locker room, I'm telling you, the guys were going, hey, you got this, no problem. We're behind you. That he's earned that, right? And so he will hit. I guarantee you he will hit a couple of game winners. Justin Tucker is one talented man. He's mentally tough. Don't worry about Justin Tucker. It's kind of like the great Hank Aaron in a slump. Don't worry about Hank Aaron back in the day. He'll hit a couple more homers for you down the stretch and into the playoffs. No worries with Justin Tucker. Look, I know where the fans are. I know where the thought is with Justin. Justin doesn't miss game winners. He doesn't miss game tying type field goals. He doesn't miss field goals in overtime. So keep your trust in Justin Tucker. It's not with kickers. It's not a big time drop off with age. That doesn't happen so quickly. So it's just one thing. Just concentrate on one thing, Justin Tucker, and he'll be back on track. He'll be one of the great kickers. Watch, he'll be one of the great kickers down the stretch and into the playoffs. This bye week falls perfectly for Justin Tucker and the Baltimore Ravens. So here's what you do when you're in a slump. You do one of two things. You get back to work, and you go hit. You get in a batting cage and go hit hundreds of baseballs. Or if you're a kicker, you go kick hundreds. I'm not talking dozens. I'm talking hundreds of kicks. You do that, or you back off. You take a deep breath, and you give yourself a little breath of fresh air, right? And then you go back to work. That's what I suspect. Both of those things is what the great Justin Tucker has done. And watch, down the stretch and into the playoffs, he'll hit a couple game winners for the Baltimore Ravens.
Marty Mornhinweg with us here on GCR. Coach, the other really bizarre scenario that played out for the Baltimore Ravens in their loss to the Eagles, we learned that Deontay Johnson, who they acquired at the trade deadline, was asked to go into the football game and did not. And to me, the Ravens announced a one-game suspension. I was stunned that the answer wasn't that he was kind of immediately cut. And I know that can be a complicated conversation, but like for you as a coach, can there be like to me that is the absolute you there's no coming back for that. Like if you're unwilling to go on the field to help your team for whatever, like for anything other than you're too hurt, you can't do it. I don't know how you can be a part of the team ever again. To me, that would be the line. Like, you have crossed it. This is the code red. Am I too dramatic about that? Or would you think that it would be very difficult for Deontay Johnson to ever come back and play for the Baltimore Ravens again?
No, you're right. You're 100% right. Here's the situation. The head coach, you're exactly right on. It is complicated. And here's where it gets complicated with the money and the salary cap and the legalities. That's where it gets complicated. So as a head coach, and I'm sure John has done this, go into a team meeting and tell the fellas exactly how we're going to operate from here on. And I would suspect that he's not going to be part of the team, but it takes, in most cases, many weeks to get the thing ironed out with the complications that you just mentioned and we just talked about. So, but here's the thing. Here's the deal. John's very good at putting it on the table with at least the team leaders.
Right.
right? And maybe even the whole team at some point. Put it on the table to tell the fellas exactly how we're going to operate and move forward from there. You've got to admit your mistakes, find the solution, correct it, move on fast. There's another play coming at you. There's another game coming at you. And the Baltimore Ravens are right in line. They're not a 5-loss team, right? They're about a 2 or 3-loss team at the maximum. So gather your stuff up. Let's get back to work. Put it on the table and let's rock and roll.
So,
I'm sure that's what John's telling the
Coach,
fellas.
to your point though, if he did go to that, like, and I think we used to call it the council. I don't know if that's still what it is, but if he went to that core group of leaders and said, you know, we got to talk about Deontay Johnson, and then said, hey, we talked to him. He's contrite. It was a bad day. We believe in him. If that's the case, then would you believe there is a path to him playing again? Like, if that group of guys stepped up and said, you know, we think that he knows that he screwed up and we're willing to give him another chance?
Well, without knowing the exact details,
right.
I would say that's extremely rare.
Okay.
If a player doesn't go on the field when he's asked, if he's healthy, right? So we've got to get the details, right? But that's the point of no return. So, and the players in the locker room now, I mean, they're putting their bodies on the line for each other. And if they've got a fellow that won't do that, it's at the point of no return. I suspect that's the situation, unless there's some details that we just don't know about.
And as I said, they've done a good job of keeping this close to the vest, as the Ravens often do. We don't know if it was the middle of the game, if it was the last. And I know that sounds crazy, but in talking to some players, I do think that it matters. Like, if it were the last drive of the game and they're down by 2 scores, and it's unlikely that maybe that doesn't sting as much as I don't know, but we'll get there. The other thing that was interesting to me this weekend, Coach, was that Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reported not that he had heard this from the Ravens, but that from other league sources, they think part of the reason the Ravens might not have released Deontay Johnson is because they've got to play the Steelers again in a couple of weeks, and they wouldn't want Deontay Johnson to be re-signed by the Steelers to then be giving them intel about the Baltimore Ravens. That seems far-fetched to me. Like, players get released from the practice squad, get released all the time during the course of a year, and are constantly brought in. Is that logical? Would that compute to you that they would hold on to him just so that, you know, he couldn't go to Pittsburgh and share anything that he learned about the Ravens and how they do business?
No, that's absolutely logical.
Okay.
I will tell you, it's happened many times.
Okay.
Over the more than a quarter of a century that I coached in the NFL, that all of those things are put on the table. All the pluses of keeping them, all the minuses of keeping them, all the pluses of releasing them, all the minuses of releasing them, and when. So the timing is very important, and especially if a man's a veteran. If the man's a rookie or in his second year or even third year, okay, no, look at if one of our opponents signs them, we're not concerned about that. Once you become a veteran type of player and you get a little knowledge, you get a little experience, you know some of the things that could hurt, if you get signed by one team and hurt your opponent that you just came from. All those things are possibilities of why you would not release a guy or you'll delay it for a couple of weeks. Absolutely, that's a possibility.
I mean, here's my thought that would be, well, they could play him again in the playoffs. So, like, if you try to wait for 2 weeks just to get past the Steelers game and you release him then, you run the risk of you got to do this again a few weeks after that in January. So I don't know.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, it does. It is one of the possibilities of why they're continuing to lock him up. Absolutely.
Coach, I want to present this to you before we let you go because it's become a hot topic, and certainly, based on your knowledge of this young man and, where he was at the point of his career when you spent the time together in his rookie season. Lamar Jackson is great. Everybody knows that. He's a 2-time MVP. He is on the track to being in the Hall of Fame, all of those things. This season, and maybe a little bit last year in particular, it has felt like after the contract there has been a almost determined effort to not have him run, from the pocket, not when turn a pass play into a scramble quite as often as we've seen in the past. And Lamar brought it up after the loss to the Eagles. He said, "Hey, my mom was just yelling at me about that. She said, the lanes are there, they're in front of me, and I'm not taking them. I got to go take them." And there's a lot of great points that are brought up about this, which, my friend, Super Bowl champion Femi Aiyamadejo says, look, we know that Lamar isn't taking big hits down the field, but there is wear and tear that comes with just the routine hits that you take down the field. And that could be, something that factors into your longevity. And obviously he's throwing the ball really well, so it's not like it's been a negative that he has been inclined to try to throw ahead of run. But it really does just feel like there are times within these games where the best thing to do is to say, okay, you're Lamar Jackson, go be Lamar Jackson. What do you make of it, and particularly him kind of acknowledging it after the last game and his family's talking about it? Does it feel like there should be moments where Lamar remembers, hey, I'm Lamar Jackson, I need to go take off and get what I can get because I have a one-of-one skill that no other quarterback has ever had?
Hey, let me just tell you, all the listeners out there, Lamar is extra special. He like you said, he's got something that nobody else has. He's developed himself. He's developed himself into a heck of a pocket passer as well. So there's that fine line. I've coached from Steve Young to McNabb to Vic to Lamar to Geno Smith to all those guys. They have that running ability. Here's what you do: you emphasize decision making, accuracy, timing, and then gut instincts. Trust your training and trust your gut instincts. Focus on those 3 things that I just talked about and turn it loose with passion. Trust your instincts, Lamar Jackson, and turn it loose with passion, and things will turn out beautifully. So those are the things that you emphasize with the great Lamar Jackson and those running type of quarterbacks that have built themselves into excellent passers of the football. Trust your instincts. He's got enough experience now that he understands what he can get away with, what he can't, when to pass the football, when to run the football. Always remain a passer until the last moment, until you're crossing the line of scrimmage, and even sometimes a couple of yards after that, because defensive players, the depth is the problem. The width and all that, they're good at that, but the depth is the problem. You can fake pump. You can pump the football a couple of yards beyond the line of scrimmage. You get defensive players jumping. So he's been through all of that. He's got the experience. I would just say simply, trust your instincts and turn it loose with passion, especially down the stretch and into the playoffs. I think John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens have done a beautiful job of keeping Lamar healthy. Here's what you do when you've got a Lamar Jackson. You run him just enough to where it's every single play, it's always a threat.
Yeah.
And you just can pull defenses apart doing that. And I think they've done a beautiful job of that. Expect Lamar to run just a little bit more down the stretch and into the playoffs.
I know it was a bitter pill, Montana falling to South Dakota State in the playoffs this weekend, Coach, so I I appreciate you still hopping on with us this morning. Maybe there's some synergy between Montana fans and Ravens fans at the moment. And some disappointment.
Hey, the thing is, the Montana Grizz and the Montana State, it's hard for me to say it, Bobcats. The Bobcats are still in it. So here's what I do. I run a quarterback school once a year for the quarterbacks of the great state of Montana, the high school quarterbacks. And so I get a lot of fellas in and out, and the great Tommy Millott. Tommy Millott's a quarterback for Montana State. He was in my quarterback school for a couple of years. I know more than several of the players that play for the Bobcats. So I root not for really the Bobcats of Montana State, but I do root for some of those players, especially the players from the state of Montana that are playing for the Bobcats. I root for them, and I would suspect, and they're number one.
Yep, undefeated
they're
still,
the
right?
Number one ranked team, undefeated, number one ranked team. It's kind of flipped on the University of Montana, the Grizz. Typically, they're ranked number one, but Montana State's ranked number one. Good luck in the playoffs. Go Grizz. I hate to say it, but because the Grizz are out. Go Bobcats.
Wow. I don't want to get you in trouble out there. I don't want anybody to be coming after you. Coach, always...
I will tell you, there is a line drawn in the sand.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah.
Up here I mean, there's a lot. There's some wagers, of some heifers against, against some land. I mean, there's some crazy type of wagers up here on the Grizz Cat game, and for the last 5 years in a row, the home team has won the Brawl of the Wild. They call it the Brawl of the Wild up here. So that home field advantage is kind of it's more
critical. Right?
It's not a coincidence.
Yep.
That's a trend. I mean, that home field advantage at both sites in Bozeman and Missoula in the great state of Montana. The fans are just it's crazy. When I was playing here, what must have been 4 decades ago, right? There was a couple of policemen as security. Now it's kind of crazy. It's way different. The crowd noise is crazy. One of the loudest places you can ever play is the Washington Grizz Stadium, and same with Montana State. It's quite a rivalry. It's a healthy rivalry, but there is a line drawn in the sand. You either a Grizz or you're a Bobcat. And there's only 2 ways to say the game. It's either Grizz Cat. It can't be the other way, or the Brawl of the Wild. Right? Don't fall into that.
You don't put them first. I get it. Yeah, I get that.
No,
yeah.
You can't do that. If they say it the other way, you know where they're at.
Love it. I love it. Coach, it's always great to hear your voice. I hope we chat again the next couple weeks. If we don't, a very Merry Christmas to you and to your family. But let's make sure we do this again real soon, all right?
Well, let's do it. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Marty Mornhinweg with us here on GCR. I appreciate him taking the time, giving us a little Montana history lesson there to boot. Real quick before, because I do want to share a thought on this. Griffin, go ahead. Remind everybody what's going on at Live Casino and Hotel real quick.
You're getting $7 in free slot play at Live Casino every time that Baltimore's football team or Washington's football team scores touchdowns during home games this season. Live Rewards members are getting $7 in free slot play. You have to have your Live Rewards card inserted correctly into the slot machine, any slot machine on the floor, and be actively playing in order to get your prize. But once those touchdowns score, $7 in free slot play. At Ronald Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I get Coach's point, and there is no doubt. Like, when he's saying that, he's telling you it's totally – what Jeremy Fowler said is utterly plausible. Now, Jeremy Fowler did acknowledge that it came from not – he said from other teams believe – that the reason why the Ravens haven't released Deontay Johnson is because of their game against the Steelers on the 21st. It's the date 20th? Is it the 20th?
Yeah, 21st. 20th. That's right.
Saturday, yeah, it's 21st, right. So does that mean that they know, or are they speculating? And that's always the question that we have in these circumstances. I reference in my column about Ken Rosenthal's report, my frustration about this report on the Orioles. I said it's also totally plausible that this is true-ish. that is legitimate information that Ken Rosenthal or not Will Sasso got, but that it's. I'm sorry, I just don't want to say the wrong because Sasson.
It's I just saw it. Salmon actually, right?
Salmon. Thank you.
Will
Sorry,
Salmon.
my fault. And this, I apologize. I apologize to Will Salmon, to all of the to Tim Salmon, who spells it differently. So I don't think they're related. I'm pretty sure I'd be the king of salmons now. I don't think you have another one.
So it just has to sound like salmon.
No.
You know.
No, we're not doing
Alaskan.
Alaskan salmon. That's
Yeah.
what you got. Because I could just keep doing baked salmon. Now what you got?
Blackened salmon.
Oh,
Very
we
good.
can do this all day. Cajun salmon. Yeah. All right. We're gonna move. We're gonna move
Salmon
on.
Caesar salad?
This is not a good version of the game. Do a better version of this. But my point, like in the column, I say it's possible that is the opinion that someone has within the organization, and that's what was shared with Ken Rosenthal or Will Salmon, but that it's not the definitive opinion. Does that make sense? That like whoever it is that said, hey, yeah, we don't think we're going to do that, like that would cost a pick, that someone else in the organization that perhaps has more power said, what? No, that's not how we're going to operate. So it's not made up. It's not it's factual, what was reported, but it just might not be definitive. It might not be the singular voice. It could also be that they change their mind, that they try to poke in on, Garrett Crochet, for example, and the Garrett Crochet price is just extraordinary, and they say, we really need some pitching. All right, we're going to have to change our mind about this. People are allowed to change their mind. Like, here's my gut, right? Like, and I don't really want this to become a political conversation. I think it's most likely that the President of the United States was always going to give a pardon to his son. But it's also possible that he genuinely believed that his team was going to win the election, and so the next person could pardon his son. So his plan really was, I'm not going to pardon my son, not because he didn't want to pardon his son, because he thought the next person was. So when we say, well, why did you lie? There's some gray area there where he's like, well, I didn't lie. I just didn't want it to have to be me. I thought I was going to have a workaround here where, like, I didn't do it. The next one did. But we lost, so I didn't have a choice. I don't know. Like, people can change their mind. There is always room here. When we say you're a liar, or this is the way it comes. If the Orioles were to sign Sean Manaea now, we dunk on Ken Rosenthal, right? We'd be like, oh, I thought you said they wouldn't do this. Well, that's, first of all, the word I believe was reluctant, if I remember correctly from the report. It wasn't like, come hell or high water, they'd never do it. It was reluctant. That word alone to me is still everything that I said before stands.
It's like hesitant was also in there.
Was it hesitant?
They could have both been.
It should have nothing to do with your decision of who you're going to sign or not. Nothing. Zero. I get when we're doing this equation, we're like, well, is this guy worth this money and a pick? That's all well and good. Right now, you're trying to win a World Series. Every thought needs to be, will this player help us win a World Series? Will we be closer to winning the World Series with this guy than we would be without him? That's if we're not there, what is going on here? What is this? Why is a mid-70-year-old man buying a baseball team and saying race to the finish line if that's not the singular thought process for the organization? And I realize I'm being pre-angry because they have plenty of time, but you get the point. My point is this thing that Jeremy Fowler said about the Ravens and Deontay Johnson might be true. It might very well be that it's just speculation from other teams. Like, can't help but notice they play the Steelers again. Well, the Steelers might say, we've been through the Deontay. We're never going to sign Deontay Johnson again. We'd never do that. We tried that once. It's not happening. This is laughable. I don't know. I don't have those answers. But it absolutely, to me, is not an acceptable reason for it to be whatever you do for your team. Now, you would say, well, we are doing it for our team. We don't want him going and talking to the teams we're going to play. then really you're getting to a point where you have to waste a roster spot for the rest of the season. Because the teams you play in the playoffs could sign Deontay Johnson too. To say, well, we want to wait past Week 16 and when we play the Steelers, and then we could release him. Right, but then what if you play the Steelers again? Don't know if you noticed, the Bills lost yesterday. Suddenly, it's not a cinch that the Bills are the 2 seed, right? It could be the Steelers that are the 2 seed. It could very well be that the Ravens somehow figure out a way to win the division. There's still, lots of things that can occur here. Right now, it looks like the Ravens' most likely first opponent in the playoffs is probably the winner of the AFC South. But that's not locked in. It could be anybody. The Ravens lose to the Steelers again. All of a sudden, they could fall behind the Broncos and the Chargers one more time, and all of a sudden, they could be the 6th seed. And then who would they play in the first round? Most likely the Steelers, the 3 seed. This is a complicated to hold on out of fear of what Deontay Johnson could tell other teams, essentially is you're saying, we're going to hold on to this player for the rest of the year despite the fact that we'll never put him on the field, that we, again, are willing to try to fight with one hand tied behind our back. And Marty Mornhinweg's point that it is different than a practice, because I say this, guys get released from the practice squad constantly. If it was so valuable, then you would do nothing every week that you played an opponent. You would look for someone that was on the practice squad of that team that had been released during the course of that season. We got to bring him in this week. Which isn't to say that that doesn't sometimes happen. It obviously does. But it's clearly not so valuable that every week your priority is, hey, who spent training camp with that team? Let's bring him in this week and sign him to the practice squad and get everything out of him that we can for 1 week. That's not a thing. But I get Marty Mornhinweg's point, which is Deontay Johnson's been around a little bit longer. He's been in this league now for 6 years. Doesn't act like it, but that's the reality. And Deontay Johnson, because of that knowledge, that he might have more of an ability to soak in certain things that a practice squad caliber guy couldn't. And that's why signing him might be more valuable to an opponent than it would be to sign a practice squad player. Understand the point that Marty Mornhinweg is making. There's that clicks. But to say because of that, we have to just keep giving away a roster spot, that doesn't click.
Could it be that they're just measuring it in, okay, we have to keep this guy on the team for, now it's 10, well, I guess not 10 days, but 12 more days, and then they can cut him loose.
But again,
and that
you do that.
Opportunity cost isn't quite as much as.
But then you face the Steelers in the playoffs, and then what? What was the? So you got one more, right? There was one more matchup where you didn't have to. He couldn't give them any secrets.
Maybe the Giants are more inclined. I'm just trying to think of who is. Yeah, got number one priority. Waiver priority or whatever.
There's no chance. None.
But the Raiders or the Giants are just he's a good player.
No chance.
We don't have a quarterback, but who knows?
Zero. I genuinely don't know that any of these teams want Deontay Johnson at this point. I don't know how much reporting there was over there. Fairness, I was very disconnected this weekend. I had I had 1,000 high school basketball games, and then my family did our annual Christmas. We do this annual Christmas adventure, we call
UFC
it.
Card too. So
right. No, that definitely did not squeeze any time in my weekend. I did have. It was funny because as I was doing the high school basketball games, I had the college football games on my computer so that during commercial breaks I could look up. So I got a little bit of it. And then yesterday I actually did watch in the car because we were driving between Philadelphia and New Jersey for our family Christmas event. I did watch a good bit of the Maryland game. Fortunately, the part where they had a 5-point lead in the second half, and I was like, this could be the moment. And then all of a sudden it disappeared.
So you didn't see the first 30, 35 minutes?
No, I saw I really did see a good bit. We went to lunch in Philly, and I had the phone out at lunch in Philly, and then we were driving from Philadelphia to New Jersey, and I was able to watch a good bit of the second half in the car. So that was the one thing. And then while we were at Six Flags yesterday, I did pull out the phone every now and then while we were waiting in a line to look at the Red Zone channel and see what was going on. I was just disconnected from Twitter
Gotcha.
And like other reports, like
pretty good.
If somebody reported that like the Chiefs would be interested in Deontay Johnson, and then I got to see the Jeremy Fowler one. I don't remember where I saw it, but I saw the Jeremy Fowler report. But there could have been other reporting about Deontay Johnson this weekend. All I know is that like none of it is good enough for me. None of these answers are alone worth it. They don't win out for me. If Deontay Johnson. Again, and talking to players, I'm comfortable with, if it was the end of the game that Deontay Johnson bagged out for, then whatever. Like I do think that can be overcome. I think that those players can get together and say, dude, it wasn't the difference in whether we're going to win or lose. If he's contrite, then we can be all right. If it was
the second quarter or something,
I just don't think there's any way. I don't think there's any chance in hell. There's no amount of contrition, and there's nothing that can justify it. And I also don't know what the rules would be, because somebody did ask me over the weekend, could the Ravens just suspend him for the rest of the season and make him not their problem, right? Like, here's how he can't sign with anybody else.
That doesn't take up an in-house suspension. Doesn't take up a roster spot.
It does take up a roster spot, but at least it takes everything off. If you're going to do it anyway, if you're going to do that, if you're so scared about what he would do what information he would give to another team, what could you do to just take this off your plate? Then the answer would be, suspend him for the rest of the year. But I don't know. I would think that the NFLPA would probably fight that. I don't think there's any precedent for somebody didn't go into a game, so you can suspend them for
4 games, whatever.
Potentially, 8 games if they make a playoff run. I don't think that's ever happened. So I don't know. I just genuinely don't have the answer to that. My gut is you don't have a choice here. You want to hold on and make your statement and suspend him? I don't know. Again, a lot of this is still we don't know more than we know, and that's part of the problem on this one in particular. All right. Project Game Day will be back this Sunday. Myself, Rita, Femi, KZ, Stecca, all together following Ravens-Giants. Come hang out with us, PressBoxOnline.com/gameday for Project Game Day, each and every game day all season long. Project Game Day returns this Sunday. Let me get into 2 topics quickly, and then we'll get to Jeremy. Man, there's just so much going on today. We got to recap picks. I don't want to do that.
I can recap picks, I guess.
Sure, yeah. You can recap picks. First being, I mentioned I watched the Maryland game. Huge bummer. But not because the result is dreadful. Losing by 5 on the road at Purdue, you knew it was going to be a pissed-off, focused Purdue team. Your life got more difficult after they got blown out by Penn State the other night. Certainly nothing about that is going to say, Maryland's not who we thought they were. But the opportunity cost of if you had gone on the road and beaten Purdue, and what that would have done, not just that you would have been ranked this week, which you would have been ranked if that had been the case, but what that would have done for this fan base to electrify them and say, maybe I'll go check out that St. Francis game that I was otherwise uninterested in. Maybe I'll go take a look at the UMES game. Now Maryland's, it's not the matchup, it's not it better be a big game. Now Maryland is the thing that's happening. If they go on the road and beat Purdue, there is juice for that program. Not to say that those games would have been sold out or anything like that, but you get my point. The opportunity cost is they had a chance to sort of wake up this community. 2 communities, because it's 2 different cities. And that, unfortunately, fell by the wayside late. What it will do for them seeding-wise, I don't know. It's too early to know how good Purdue is going to end up being. Like, if Purdue,
seems like they're going to compete for a Big Ten.
It seems like that, but if Purdue had lost at home to Maryland after getting blown out by Penn State, then people would be questioning how good Purdue is. You know what I mean? Like, it's too early for, and we'll talk to Patrick about it tomorrow. It's too early for me to look at the tangible side of it. I think Purdue's going to be really good, and I think that even if they had lost to Maryland, they probably would have figured things out. Braden Smith's really, really, really good,
It's
man.
ridiculous.
It's unbelievable. There's no way around that. So like that, there might be like a tangible cost at the end that could have been the difference in a seed line, because that could have been a really good win on the road. And, how many teams have true road wins that are really good? I mean, Kentucky went out to Seattle to beat Gonzaga this weekend, but that doesn't count as a true road win, I don't think, because it was definitely a quote-unquote neutral site in Seattle.
Well, I mean, Spokane's nowhere near.
Yeah,
it's like 3
correct.
hours.
I mean, but I'm going to guess there were still more Gonzaga fans there than there were Kentucky fans. Like, I'm guessing.
Kentucky is
by the way, I did actually turn that game on after the football was over on Saturday night, and there did look like there were a good number of Kentucky fans in Seattle for what it's worth. But I don't, whatever the point, I don't know how many teams are going to have true road wins, true on an opponent's home floor, that stand up. And if Purdue finishes as a top 10 team and Maryland had gotten that win, that would have been something significant to put on their resume at the end of the year and would have mattered for seeding purposes. There's no reason to be down about Maryland basketball because they lost on the road at Purdue. They look good.
You could shoot a 3-pointer, which was multiple of them.
The best player on the floor ended up being Braden Smith and not Derek Queen. It was close. For a long time, it looked like it was Derek Queen. And then the tide turned, and it was Braden Smith. And God, was he good. And that might be the reminder of, hey, it's still better to have the best guard on the floor, not the best big man, although Derek Queen was knocking down triples there in the second half, which was, in a way it almost became, because then he wanted to take more.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, no.
Well, but later on, then he did fake it, and then he drove easily, and
which was good.
Laid it in.
But it might have been a reminder that you're like, this is the real thing that you keep feeling is, if only Derek Queen and Jameer Young could have been together for one season, just one season. My God, how good would this have been? But that's not. There's nothing you can do about it. That's not the reality. So yeah, it's a bummer because it was there, and they had every opportunity to win that game, and it just got away from them late, and that stinks, right? Like, it stinks because they had it, but there's no reason to think that Maryland isn't a good basketball team, an NCAA tournament caliber team. It's just that they've got to prove that they can be more than that, and that remains to be seen. And so we'll all still kind of operate with they got to show us that. It's going to be hard to do that. I mean, the Syracuse game is something, but
is that a neutral? Or is that
yeah, that's in Newark.
Oh, okay.
It's in Newark.
Yeah.
And then
Will loves going to Newark, so that's.
It is. I mean, if you're looking for an excuse to go to New York during Christmas season, that is a cool. And it's the Ravens don't play that day because they play on Saturday, right? They play that's the Steelers game. Yeah. So there's really nothing going on Sunday. You want to go run up to New York, and Saturday night, get a hotel room, go to the game, and then wander around, look at the tree, the whole thing. It's a good reason to do it. What am I, a tourist?
Yeah, that's a
I'm
good
working
idea.
for the tourism department.
New York City needs your help.
I don't know what just happened there. It was very weird.
Because you're thinking about it, so you should do
it. You know what? Maybe the family and I will do that. No, we got stuff to do. Unfortunately, not going to be an option.
Stuff to do.
We got stuff and things.
Yeah, watch Maryland.
I would like to watch Maryland. That we get together with my father-in-law for our Christmas celebration is on the 22nd. It would not. My father-in-law. Man, it's actually kind of adorable whenever my father-in-law, like, he taught me, I don't remember which game it was, but he was like, I think it was the Steelers game. My father-in-law doesn't even watch Ravens games. It's not that he's opposed to it. It's not his thing. But he said to me, we got together for dinner, and he was like, hey, what the heck happened with the Ravens? And I was like, these are never in-depth conversations with my father-in-law. I just know I can be like, that sucked, and then just move on to whatever we're going to talk about.
Freaking kicker.
Right? But then he was like, man, I watched the whole game. What the hell happened? I was like, Pat, you watched the game? You did what now? You want to talk about sports? Like, this
should be your dream, shouldn't it?
No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It's a miracle that my father-in-law loves me, because God knows he does not give a rat's ass that I work in sports. It's the opposite of that. What a letdown it is that his daughter didn't marry a doctor or somebody noble, anything along those lines.
Noble-ish.
No.
Ish.
No.
Maybe.
All right, so yeah, Maryland thing. Now, the college football playoff.
Kind of bummed.
Bummed about what?
I'd rather see Bama in.
Why?
A better team.
Says who?
Says my eyes.
That's some nothing. You have no idea who
You
the
got
better
Jalen
team
Milrow
is.
and
You think because you wanted because
that
they're Alabama.
16-year-old receiver that.
Yeah, Ryan Williams, who's exciting as hell. I don't disagree with that. They also got pummeled by Oklahoma. So, like,
Yeah, that was a fluke.
this is okay. We'll just do this. Look, man, that's what just happened right there. What that whole and is why there is no correct answer. Anybody who thinks they know what the correct answer is wrong. There is no correct answer. I think the right thing to do was what they did because of the nature of Conference Championship Week. The right thing to do is to say, moving forward, Conference Championship games can only help, not hurt. That your record will only reflect a win in a Conference Championship game. It will not reflect a loss. Because the points that everyone made, that why wouldn't we just say no? Conscientiously object. If the teams that we're competing against don't have to go do this, and we do, why would we participate? And it's for television reasons, you want them to participate because we wanted to have college football games to watch this week. So you don't want to get rid of college football championship games. The conferences aren't going to do it. And we, the fans, don't want it either because it'd be one less week of football games. Who wants that? So the only real way to go about doing it is to say conference championship games can only help you. We can only add to your resume. If you lose a conference championship game, we take it off the resume. It didn't happen. We look at your resume other than that loss. I think that's the only fair thing to do. Now, does that, even if SMU still only had, one loss, do I know definitively that they're better than Alabama? Absolutely not. But no one does. And you did this to yourselves. You're not going to get me to sympathize with anyone that got left out of a 12-team playoff. You had your chances. I saw a clip where Dan Le Batard and Dan Patrick got into a fight about this because Dan Patrick said, "Well, to Miami, if you just beat Syracuse," and Dan Le Batard's right, just win the games. Let's not have the conversation. Let's not talk about which team is better. Let's just simplify it to just go win the games. Well, that's the reality. The reality is none of us know which team is better. We don't. We can't. You have a gut. You think this. And as some people point out, either because of their pedigree and their history or because one specific statistic stands out to you and you think it. But no one knows. It is impossible. It is sports talk radio deciding who's going to be in the championship. That's what we've got. So the only thing there is to say, with respect to Dan Le Batard, who I think is very good at what he does, the only thing there is to say is, well, if you had just won your games, you're not in this spot. That's it. That's all that's left. I have no sympathy for Alabama, Miami, South, any of them. The nonsense yesterday from Alabama fans about well, we're just not going to schedule anybody, which on Elon Musk's internet still got community noted. The worst website on the face of the planet still dunked. Alabama fans well, we're not going to schedule anybody anymore. What? You didn't schedule anybody this year. You played Wisconsin, who's semi-good sometimes.
Yeah, they only lost to Oregon by 3,
Yeah, I mean, that was the high water mark for them this year. And yes, I agree that this was a particularly bad Wisconsin team, but we're a few years removed from Wisconsin being
Big Ten championships and
even competitive in that way. And even then, they were never going to win a Big Ten championship. It was just they got to go represent the West because the West was putrid. This isn't about scheduling. No, you want to say it's about the SEC, and there's two things that will come out of this conversation. The first is definitively we're getting to 16 teams, but we knew we were getting to 16 teams. They kind of told you that immediately when they went to 12. No one asked for 12 teams. No one said, you know what we really need? 12 teams. We all said, give us 8. 8's the number. Make sure there's one group of 5 team in there. Give us 8 teams. We're good. Let everybody in the country have a chance at winning the national championship. And they said, 8 teams? Absolutely. Here's 12. We're like, what?
All right.
No one asked for this.
Sure.
Well, that's what you got. There's 12. Now we got to go up against the NFL. Now we got to play playoff games on the same moment as NFL games. Wait, what? Why? I would like to watch them both. Sorry, we got to have 12. What? Does this make sense to you? Yep, it's not about making sense. It's what we're doing. And it is. That's what they're going to do. They're going to play these stupid playoff games. I think.
Well, one's on Friday.
I know, but then the two on Saturday are both up against
the Ravens.
Two of the three on Saturday are up against the Chiefs. Right.
Yeah.
So I think they did avoid the Penn State-Pittsburgh debacle that everybody, all of the Penn State people were panicked that their game was going to be at the same time as the Ravens-Steelers game. They were losing their minds, but they ended up getting the early game on Saturday. So it's the, I think, Clemson-Texas game that's on at the same time as Ravens-Steelers, if I remember correctly. All of this to say, you're getting 16 teams because SEC teams got left out. That's the reason. You're going to get 16 teams because it was SEC teams that were left out. If it was Miami and, Iowa State that were the top teams that were left out, then nobody would care. But because SEC teams are left out, you're going to get the 16 teams quicker. The other part is it's going to be the next step in the process of the SEC and the Big Ten saying we're splitting away.
What's TNT? What's their football crew?
I think they're just taking ESPN. Remember, ESPN essentially they traded something with Turner and were willing to give these up because they know they're going to take a bath. Not they're going to be well viewed, but they're not going to be as well viewed as the other playoff games are because they're up against NFL games.
Right.
So ESPN said in one of their trades, you can have these games. And I think they're going to produce them, and it's going to be their broadcasters. It's going to be it's going to be an ESPN presentation on TNT so that ESPN doesn't have to take the bath of look at all of this is really what it is. They want to be able to put out a graphic. Here are our ratings for the college football playoff. Set record numbers. And they know that the two games that are up against NFL games will not do that.
Well, so they do have Tennessee Ohio State as the 8 p.m. game.
Right. That's not up against an NFL game.
The
NFL games are 1 and 4 because those are the teams turning around and playing on
then you're right.
On Christmas. So they got to get them they got to knock them out early on that day so they can turn around and play 4 days later. So, they're playing them 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock are those games. Ravens game is the second game.
Yeah, you're right then. Yeah. All right, so Tennessee, Ohio State, then back to ABC.
Oh, I give ESPN credit for this. This is actually brilliant, right? And they got something in the trade. I don't remember what it was, but somehow in this trade,
they an NBA game or something.
Something I don't know. They got something out of it by giving up these two playoff games to TNT, and now they don't. Again, they'll be. I don't want to pretend like there's no one's going to watch them. There will be plenty of people that will watch them, but not as many people as will be watching the others that aren't up against NFL games. So you would end up looking at these 4 games and saying, boy, 2 were really highly rated and 2 were rated. Now they don't have to worry about that. Now they can say our games were blockbusters. Brilliant. Anyway, I don't have a strong take. I don't. Win your games. But it's going to get to 16 teams, and it's going to get to it's going to be the next step in the conversation of the SEC and the Big Ten saying, what are we doing here? Get them out. Because the SEC is going to call the Big Ten and say, well, this time you got in. This time you snuck your 4 teams in. But next year it's going to be whoever. USC is going to be on the chopping block next year. And they're going to lose out to
Maryland, maybe,
Yeah, Maryland, sure. Next year they're going to Zion Ely.
Cool.
No idea. No idea. They're going to say next year they're going to lose out to Louisville. And how are you going to feel about that? So this is going to be the next talking point for the inevitable split of the Big Ten and the SEC from the rest of college football is the fact that the SEC got left out in this process and only got 2 teams in. They're going to say there is no point to us doing this if it's only going to lead to us having 3 teams. 3 teams in. This was supposed to exist for there to be a bunch of SEC and Big Ten teams and then the 3 other teams that you have to take. It's supposed to be
Notre Dame and the 3 other teams that you have to. Yeah.
Oh, right, I forget about Notre Dame. Yeah, that's a good point. Notre Dame is part of it. So the 4 other teams. It's supposed to be 4 SEC teams, 4 Big Ten teams, and then 4 other teams. That's what the playoff was supposed to be built for. They don't really want the three other teams. They're good with Notre Dame because Notre Dame equals ratings. They don't really want the other three teams, but they're willing to play along as long as it's just the other three teams. The moment that they're taking a spot away that could have been ours, it's got to end.
It's not fun anymore.
It's got to end. We're out. We're out. Either you're one of us or we don't want to be part of it. All right. Hey, if you missed any of the action from championship weekend, it was a hell of a weekend. Some real thrillers. Some last-second decisions. There's a lot going on in championship weekend down in Annapolis. You can find all the recaps, all the information by going to countysports.zone. Countysports.zone is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Start getting all your basketball content there very soon. But anything that you missed from championship weekend, scores, recaps, all of it, find it, countysports.zone. Jeremy Conn joins us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
The top high school basketball talent from across the country returns to the Wicomico Civic Center December 26th through 30th for the Governor's Challenge presented by Pohanka of Salisbury. Witness 5 full days of elite competition featuring over 140 high school basketball teams from 16 states plus Canada. Multiple top 10 teams and nationally ranked players will display their talents on the court. Don't miss the best experience in high school hoops. For tickets and info, visit govchallenge.org.
Hey Baltimore, it's number 10, Arthur Millette, and I'm hoping you'll slot us in all season long for the Arthur Millette Show. We'll be traveling around the region all season, giving you the chance to get to know me and my teammates. There will be some football talk and a lot more. You can watch this show live on Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages and listen every Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. Find out more at pressboxonline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show, the only show in town that's a work of art.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from driveezmd.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at driveezmd.com.
Visit Harford County this holiday season for a brand new event. You'll feel like you stepped into a holiday movie. Harford Holidays is overflowing with the spirit of the holiday season. You'll be amazed by the jaw-dropping light displays, thrilled by a visit to Santa's workshop, and have the holiday time of your life with sleigh rides, a special vendor village, s'mores making stations, and so much more. It's a holiday light experience, new at Ripken Stadium, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, December 6th through December 22nd. For ticket information, head to visitharford.com. You'll have the happiest holiday season ever.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. There's been a lot to do today. Today's show also brought to you by this print issue of Press Box. Final days for this before it makes way. I think this is the last full week that this will be on stands with Derek Queen and Juju Reese on the cover. And then the annual Best of issue featuring our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year. Who could it be now? Maybe Stan and I will reveal that on Friday. I don't know. We'll figure that out this week. But this is the final full week that you can go get this print issue of Press Box before it is gone. All right. Joining us now as he does every Monday. And, he's going to be so bummed because we're going to actually have to talk about sports just because it was such a busy weekend. He's Jeremy Conn, Big Bag Morning Show, 105.7 The Fan. Good morning, pal. How are you?
Ooey. I don't want to talk sports.
I did watch, two things. I did watch the Yacht Rock doc.
Did you like it?
Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Yeah. And to your point, for as much as I knew about the greatness of Toto, no, I did not realize that how many. Like, I did not know the Michael Jackson stuff. Like, holy crap, man. Like,
so I'll give you another one, and this one's an older one. Did you watch the one on Motown? I think is also on HBO.
The one with Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson.
Yes. So
I did.
Good,
I did watch that.
The second time I've watched it, and I loved it.
Excellent. That one is outstanding. You know what I enjoyed most about the Yacht Rock one was like how unassuming all of these guys are. We're like, they just genuinely get a kick out of the fact that somehow they've gotten a second life. That it's only Fagan who's like really an asshole about any of it, which was hilarious. My God, that was so funny. Like, how about you go F yourself?
You know what I took away from it, and I was shocked because my whole childhood was ruined. When I saw Chris Cross, he didn't make me jump. You know, like,
it looked completely different. It was weird.
Yeah,
he almost looks like
but
he's.
I did have a newfound respect for Christopher Cross.
Okay, I'm still not really into Christopher Cross, right? Like his music.
And that's
okay. I know it is yacht rock, but it's and I think they laid it out correctly. It's less jazz influence to me than other yacht rock is, and that to me, the best yacht rock is the yacht rock with the most jazz influence, right? And that's why I love the Doobie Brothers. Why I love my reverence for Michael McDonald is over the moon. But I did really get a kick out of like how much they were genuinely appreciative. Do you remember when Michael Keaton missed out on winning Best Actor for what was that movie? Birdman? What was a couple of years ago?
Birdman.
And then they won Best Picture, right? And he comes up on the stage and they're like, "Hey, Michael, say something." And he said, "I'm just happy to be here." And it wasn't one of those. Like, you could sense it was real because Michael Keaton had been away from the spotlight for so long that, like, it genuinely meant something to him that he was still getting roles and being able to remind everybody, hey, I'm Michael Keaton. I'm pretty freaking good at this. And
it's, you know what, but to your point about, like, Michael Keaton, I mean, I'd throw Kevin Bacon in there and a handful of other guys. Like, they feel like guys you would want to sit down and have a beer with and just shoot the breeze with them and you know, not even talk about acting, just talk about life.
And that's what I got out of Michael McDonald was so, like, cool. Like, he was just like, man, they want to make fun of me.
He's the type of guy you could say, my son's playing a baseball game on Saturday at 1, and he shows up to watch.
Right. Exactly right. What are you doing here? He's like, I just didn't have anything else going on, and you seem nice. Like, I guess I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
No, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I truly enjoyed it. I wish they would have I really wish they would. They never got to Kokomo, which is to me a great debate about yacht rock. Is all Beach Boys fans hate Kokomo. I think Kokomo is a fine song because I don't think of it like a Beach Boys song. I think of it like a 80s yacht rock song. Like,
I guess if you want to get the party started, you got to play Kokomo, right?
Exactly right.
Everybody
knows.
Yeah, everybody loves Kokomo.
All right. All right. Well, I did enjoy that, and I appreciated it. I enjoyed it. Thank you for the recommendation. It was excellent.
Awesome.
Now, that being said, I want to talk baseball with you today.
Perfect.
Because it's funny. I was talking to Lou Merloni earlier in the program about Tyler O'Neill, and, like, he could not hide how he's like, dude, this is a worse team with Tyler O'Neill than it was with Anthony Santander. Like, you've taken a step backwards in this process. And he said nice things about Tyler O'Neill. I just still don't really know what Tyler O'Neill is between, like, actual middle-of-the-order bat or really just a platoon guy that gets hurt all the time. And
so,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
you go ahead. Oh, okay, I'll go. Well, can I give you the optimism, the pessimism, and then be the realist? And the realist is how I feel.
Yep.
I mean, the optimistic part of it is, I mean, if you're talking about Tyler O'Neill, if he stays healthy, I mean, the guy's shown you like 33 home runs in, 112 games. Like there's that chance that he could be an absolute game changer. He's a 2-time Gold Glove outfielder. He's got muscles on muscles, and he always gets hurt, and it always happens to be something surrounding that.
Yep.
But for as big as he is, he and Adam Duvall are two of the biggest white dudes I've ever seen that run faster than anyone. Like, they are incredibly athletic. So that's the optimism part, that he fits right in and that he's a cheaper version of Santander, for lack of a better term. The pessimist is just going to look at – the guy's going to get injured. He's going to get injured this year. I think a blessing in disguise would be if Kierstead took a huge step forward and then all of a sudden Tyler O'Neill is your DH, or maybe they're platooning in right field.
That to me would be the best case scenario, because I can't shake that Tyler O'Neill splits, man. Like, I
you mean
get
against righties and lefties?
Yes, like I get that some guys have to hit. You can't platoon them. They've got to play every day, and he'll still do just enough against righties. But like, the numbers are, a year ago, he shouldn't have been in the lineup against righties. Like, the numbers a year ago were awful. In 317 plate appearances, OPS 693 against righties. Like, that's a guy that can't be an everyday player. I'm not, again, I don't want to be too down about it. I think the point that you just made is perhaps the most compelling, which is that this allows you to still have a path forward for Heston Kjerstad, who if you commit to Tyler O'Neill right now as an everyday player, why is Heston Kjerstad here?
Yeah, and it's weird seeing a guy sign for like $45, $50 million and thinking he's not an everyday player. But I do think, ultimately, I still think he's going to hit against righties. And I think the platoon split's going to be kind of closer to 3/5 and 2/5, or, if you get what I'm saying,
right.
Depending on lefty and righty matchup. The other interesting thing is, so you bring in Gary Sanchez, which I don't know if I'm overstepping here what you want to get to, because the realist in me looks at Tyler O'Neill, and I don't mind the move the more and more I look at it, but there's no doubt in my mind he's getting hurt. So will they have enough, and when does he get hurt?
Right.
Does he get hurt in the beginning of the year? Does he get hurt going into the playoffs? All those things matter. It's going to happen because it's happened every single year of his career. And the one year that he played almost a full season, he was 8th in the MVP race in the National League and had just a monster season. So, yeah. So with that, and with Gary Sanchez and talking about it, like, to me, Gary Sanchez is bridging the gap. I mean, it's $8-9 million, whatever it was, for a backup catcher.
Right.
He has power in his bat. He's terrible defensively.
Yep.
So, again, maybe he's DHing sometime too. But when Basayo's here, they're going to have some wholesale decisions to make on how much is he playing, or are they just going to leave him in the minors for most of next year?
I can't. If he, I mean, it depends on what he's doing production-wise, but I can't fathom. They have a problem with that. We got to talk about it more. I want to go back to something though.
Okay.
On the whole, adding in Tyler O'Neill and Gary Sanchez, if you give a reasonable reset of Adley Rutschman, like that Adley Rutschman ain't what he was in the second half of the season, maybe you're not making him Johnny Bench, but like, if at least he isn't that. He's somewhere between those two things. And
I think he's closer to Johnny Bench than he is the other part.
I would like to hope so.
Okay.
If that's what you get from Adley Rutschman, it's just a reasonable reset. Plus, Jackson Holliday looks more like the guy we thought he was going to be this year. And Jordan Westberg continues to be the guy that we saw for doses. Colton Cowser, if you get reasonable, at least incremental steps forward from those young players, is this a lineup, if this is largely what it is this a lineup that is capable of winning a World Series?
I think it is. I mean, and again, I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself, understanding that Juan Soto just went to the National League and the Yankees are probably going to pay for Santander now.
Right.
But, like, looking at the way that this division's set up, yeah, I think this is absolutely a playoff team. And if they get in the playoffs, I think they have the pieces. And I've been saying this. Look, I called the Juan Soto thing at the beginning of the year. He's going to be a Met next year. There's no doubt about it. I mean, his love for Francisco Lindor, and knowing that Steve Cohen, and I don't know if you saw this, I retweeted it. Steve Cohen has the highest, I think it's called Scrooge percentage, meaning how much of the money you make that you put back into your team. The second highest is 67% at the Dodgers. That whatever they make, 67% of that goes back into the team. The Mets are 102%, meaning that Steve Cohen is actually putting in money for them to play this season. So it's just kind of incredible to see that. Now, we don't know what Rubenstein's going to do. Rubenstein, I've gotten Rob to say it the wrong way so many times, or tried to, that I say it the wrong way every time now. But, with all the things that are going on, I think the Orioles are going to sign Sasaki, and I think they're trading for Garrett Crochet. I think both of those things end up happening.
And if they do,
I don't have any inside information.
Right, but if they do both those things, because that's going to get me to my next point. Like, if they do both those things, it's going to, one, nullify my next point, and then two, if they do both those things, then I'm going to feel – I don't know that I feel like this lineup right now. And I get it. Part of it is that I'm still significantly –
It doesn't look better than last year.
Right.
But it will be, just because the rookies and the guys that have played – 1.5 seasons, they're going to be so much better next year from going through a full season.
Right.
And with Jackson Holliday, I mean, he did hit 5 bombs in limited at bats, and if you placate that out to a full season, I believe he hits better, and that this guy's going to hit 20+ bombs as well at a position if he is at second base, because there have been rumors about moving him to the outfield.
All right. That said, what you just said there is really significant to me, because the column that I wrote, it was actually pleasant to hear the Orioles at least signing players in December. That's not something that they do frequently. Like, that did feel like show us that something's different about this ownership group. Well, hey, we're not waiting around until March to get players, right? Like, we're going to go ahead. That was pleasant. But it was juxtaposed with this report from Ken Rosenthal that they're not willing to sign pitchers who decline qualifying offers and give up draft pick compensation to get them. And again, we're only talking about 3 guys at this point. It's Pivetta, who I don't know that any of us, were really. Sean Manaea, who I think
had a really good year.
Yeah, had a really good year, and I think there's more of an argument for than Pivetta. And then the one that I think was the only one that really bothered any of us was Max Fried, who a lot of us were holding up as like, this is maybe the best case scenario for the Orioles pitching-wise in the offseason.
Okay.
Let me flesh the thought out, and then I'm going to let you respond.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
My frustration, if you don't get those guys because they're not the right guys or whatever, that's all well and good. But to tie this, it felt so much to me like Dan Duquette saying, we fundamentally don't agree with the posting system. Like, why are you taking yourself out of the running for anyone? Why would you ever say, no, we won't do that because it would cost us a draft pick? Dude, you've got the moment right now. Right now is the moment. You have the team, the core, worrying about that draft pick compensation for what might happen 4 years down the road. I get it. Like, I want you to be good 4 years down the road. But, I thought it was going to be we're racing to the finish line. I thought it was going to be that things are changing here. And that, it was gross to me. Like, it was gross for me to hear you say we're going to eliminate a certain group of free agents or we won't do that. I can't. That feels so old regime to me that it really bothered me.
Yeah, so first off, let me just say this. It doesn't bother me, but it doesn't bother me as long as they're not telling the truth. Because my whole thing is, I think it's a great business model of trying to find other free agents and not give up draft picks. Like, for example, if you were able to go get, and I'm just going to throw a name out, not that it matters, Luis Severino, and you didn't have to give up a draft pick, and exclude the names that I'm throwing out, and comparing him to, like, Max Fried and saying, okay, is this a better situation that we keep our draft pick and sign this guy? The thing I don't like is there should be no absolute. When something comes across, like, nobody should get paid $750 million with escalators up to $800 million.
Right.
But when the time shows it and it comes up and you have an opportunity to do it and you have the funds, then do it. Like, I think the Yankees were stupid for not adding more money in and throwing more money at the guy when the grand scheme of things, once we get down the line, that's a drop in the bucket for what you want. So, but to that point, like, yeah, I don't have a problem not wanting to give up a draft pick by signing a guy, but if it's the guy, do it.
Right.
Like Eric DeCosta doesn't like trading first-round picks, and I think that's a great business model to have. But when it comes up and there's that opportunity to get something that puts you over the top, you got to be willing to bite that bullet.
Right. Correct. And again, this is more like the trading a second-round pick for Roquan, because you're not giving up your first-round pick. You just be giving up whatever your next pick is after that. And to the point, like this year it's particularly bizarre because it seems like you're losing Corbin Burns, so there would be a trade-off there. Like, you'd be getting a pick for Corbin Burns. Like, there's a extra pick coming your way. And they would say, well, that's an extra pick that we could have. And again, I'm not an F them picks guy. I'm not a, prospects are cool, but parades are cool. I understand the conversation is more complicated than that, but this is the moment where it feels like it shouldn't be. Like, if we can't say we've got to capitalize on this right now, I don't know where Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman are going to be by the time next year's first-round pick. That's what next year's, what would it be, the number 30, 35, 38, 40 overall pick. By the time the 40th overall pick next year is ready to be in the major leagues, where will Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman be?
Yeah. I mean, we don't know.
How can that be a thought process right now?
So the other thing that I think with this is it's something that they're – all right, so will we agree the Orioles have been really good at drafting since Elias has taken over? Would you agree with that? Or at least developing and –
I gotta think that through, right? Because we've had this debate a few times, which is, have they been really good at drafting, or did they run into a couple that were obvious? And that, because like somebody would say, well, tell me about the drafting and development of the pitchers, and I wouldn't know what to say if somebody said that back.
Yeah, and I think people would look at it now, Bobby Witt or Adley Rutschman, they'd probably say, oh my God, you got to take Bobby Witt, even though there's a huge advantage of having a switch hitting catcher.
As long as Adley Rutschman isn't the guy that he was in the second half, I'm not going to be down on Adley, right? Like this, it's so much of that conversation is complicated by what we saw in the second half of last year, which was just grotesque. I think that drafting and development has to matter, and I also understand that the Orioles are still going to be a small market team, and they're never going to be doing the Juan Soto thing. That thing will never happen here. So I acknowledge why for them, they're going to say drafting and development has to matter even more than it might matter for other teams.
But can you say that with new ownership? We don't know what they're going to do. I just feel that way.
I still think that my feeling is that David Rubenstein is too smart of a businessman to just say I'm going to light money on fire for the sake of lighting money on fire. That it's probably going to be better than it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's suddenly going to be, and just in poking around with the people that know their way of thinking, it ain't going to be Steve Cohen. It ain't going to be the Padres a couple years ago. Like that, those days just aren't coming.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think that, because I mean, the key piece here, the one guy that we have to talk about, because I'd compared him to Juan Soto when he was coming up, was Gunnar. Like, and I'm not saying. Look, Gunnar plays defense. He should bring his glove to the field when he comes and plays. So you're having a two-way player, but I think his approach at the plate is very similar to what Juan Soto does. I'm not telling you he's a better hitter than him. I just see similarities. And he may not get the $700 million. What if he gets $500? Because as I was looking at it and they were showing all the big signings, like you could have gotten Machado and Harper, Machado and Judge for what they paid Soto. The only guy you couldn't have got was Shohei Ohtani, because all those other contracts are $400, $300. And now we'll see what the going rate is when these guys hit the open market. Gunnar's the only one I'm worried about, because who his agent is and what he could end up demanding. Would the Orioles go in that direction, especially with what they've been developing here in their farm system and having a Jackson Holiday and having a Basayo and a Mayo? So I know they like going that route, and they like to be smart with their draft picks and try to keep as many as they can. But at the same extent, you have to look at it. You're going to get a draft pick back for Santander. Burns walks, you get a draft pick back for that. Like, when we're doing compensation picks in the NFL, some of that stuff evens out, man. And I know you want as much as you can get, but I don't like making wholesale statements as it's an absolute, like we would never do that.
Right. And to be fair, obviously they weren't quoted. They just, like Ken Rosenthal doesn't report that if he, like, let's be fair.
Yeah.
Like there's obviously something there.
You still got connections here.
Yes, correct. 1,000%. And everywhere, frankly. So that's just where we are. I'm not trying to overreact to it. To your point, if they turn around and trade for Crochet and sign Sasaki, then it will be irrelevant to me that they weren't willing to do Max Fried, right?
Yeah, and that sucks. And like the cool thing about today is I wouldn't be down on anything, even if you're not a fan of the Tyler O'Neill signing and the Gary Sanchez signing. Just celebrate all those Yankee fans crying and lighting Juan Soto jerseys on fire and feeling like he owed them something. He betrayed us. No, he didn't, you jackasses. He took the best deal.
Yep.
Your team didn't offer the best deal. So what do you want?
It's nonsense. I mean, I just petulant man babies. I mean, this goes back to the conversation we had a couple years ago of like, why are you mad at this person? What are you angry about that I'll never?
I know we talked about this last week.
We did.
Didn't we?
We talked about it with Mike Messina. We talked about it with Manny Machado. Like, I'll never in my life understand what your anger. Like, you want to be angry at Aubrey Huff? Be angry at Aubrey Huff. He's a garbage human being who trashed Baltimore while playing in Baltimore. Like that. That's the person to be angry at. My feelings about Mark Teixeira have even been conflicting over the years, right? Because
you wanted him here, so it was like
we all. And by the way, in that moment, and it's something that I tried to talk about on the radio when it was happening. What we were really angry about, we were angry at the Orioles, but we tried being angry at the Orioles, and it got us nowhere, right? Like I don't ever want to give that maniac credit for anything, but the Free the Birds thing. For most of the people involved, the heart was in the right place, which is, this sucks, man, and we just want to be able to say it out loud.
Yeah,
like,
some of us weren't just looking for attention.
Correct.
Some of us were just saying we want a team to root for that's worth rooting for, and not being told, hey, you got all these prospects coming up, and they're 29-year-old kids.
Right. Like, there was something to be said for it, and it didn't work. It got you nowhere. So the next time, we were really pissed off about the Orioles, because the Orioles, as I said a couple of times, never put an offer in front of Mark Teixeira. That never happened. Like, we allowed this because of certain reporting, but they were never going to sign Mark Teixeira because they knew what the money was going to be, and they were never spending that money on him. So they
Can
were.
I tell you my favorite one? It was Carlos Delgado, because the Orioles were then competing with the Marlins and maybe a couple other teams, and Carlos Delgado got offered 3 years, $40 million from the Marlins after the Orioles offered with 3 years, $30 million. And then he brought it back to him reportedly, and then they counter-offered with 3 years, $30 million again.
Right.
So, just to reiterate, this is what we're willing to spend.
This is what our offer
$10 million
is.
more.
So, like, it's even conflicting for me with Teixeira. I think, like, as a fan base, we needed that day because, like, we were just angry. Like, we just needed somebody to be pissed off at, and we tried being pissed off at the Orioles, and it got us nowhere. So, there was a part of me that was like, dude, this is nonsense. Like, Mark Teixeira never had the chance to come to Baltimore. Like, it was never – I don't know why you're mad at the guy. It was never an option. But I also understood it, like, we needed a civic gathering of some sort because there was no reason to civically celebrate the Orioles. Like, we just couldn't
It's like me
do
being
it.
mad at Alexandra Daddario because she's not dating.
Right. Like, what an a-hole.
I've never asked her. I mean, obviously I did. We'd be dating.
Yeah, of course, 100%. And happy. And I think Mrs. Conn would understand, honestly. Like, I think,
I mean, look, this is going to be a throuple. So
what was the line? The famous Steve Martin. My first wish this Christmas season is for Rosanna Arquette and I to enjoy a 1-week holiday completely nude together. My wife is supportive of this. Favorite things ever.
By the way, Rosanna Arquette also.
Yep, yeah, exactly
in
right.
Scott Rock.
100%. Just because everybody was in love with Rosanna Arquette. Yeah, I don't know, dude. This is where I am. Like, I'm trying not to be pre-angry. They have plenty of time to do something else. They have plenty of time to solve this and to put a team together.
You know what I kind of feel? I kind of feel like these moves that they made were good moves, but they were good moves if you missed out on all the other stuff. You know, like that's kind of how it feels. And I'd have to go back and look at the market to see what other outfielders are still out there. I mean, we had brought up Teoscar Hernandez. I know Rob was hopeful for Alex Bregman and moving Jordan back to second base, and then maybe Jackson goes to the outfield. I still think there's a big trade coming down where Mountcastle, some prospects, I think they've got to do some wheeling and dealing because they have a logjam of players.
Yeah.
And the younger players have already done enough in the minors to prove that they should be here. So what are you going to do?
All right, that's where we're at. All right, we talked a lot of sports today. I don't know what that was all about. It's better than me talking about – I don't know if you know what I did for picks this week, but this week for picks, I picked the game the way I thought it was going to go, and then I picked the opposite. I picked the opposite. And as it turns out, I would have been better than me. I would have gone 5-3 if I had just made my picks this week. If I had just stuck with them.
Are you still in last?
Oh, I'm in last by a long shot. Like,
no.
I might as well go ahead and call Rollo now and schedule a date and just be prepared for him to It's over, Johnny. Like,
I'll take a kick from him before I eat that crap.
Oh,
I'd let him kick me in the face.
Sardine. Oh, God.
I can't do like that. I don't like fish. and it has to be prepared a certain way for me to like it. Like at McDonald's, fried and put cheese and tartar sauce on it.
You don't like any. Have you always been that way? Did you like growing up? Did you not like fish?
Yeah, like I never. Like now, I've started trying different fish. Like I've tried sushi 8 times, and every time I want to throw up when I start chewing.
That's wild to me. Like sushi's one of the few. You know what's funny though? I love sushi. Love sushi. It's actually hilarious when I used to. Yeah, I'll give him a free plug. When I used to do advertising with John from Jimmy's, I used to always say, like, dude, let me talk about your sushi more frequently. Like, with all due respect to your crab cakes, it's the sushi that is the reason why I like coming here. But everybody associates sushi with, like, strip malls, so you don't want to talk about, like, a nice, like, you sell people on coming to your nice restaurant by selling the sushi, right? Like, so it was never the focus. Sushi to me is, like, a treat, but my wife and I do this bit where she's like, hey, I want sushi tonight. She just wants me to order like 7 rolls and like don't even tell her what it is. Just go to
she can just randomly try a bunch of stuff.
She just wants to try a bunch of sushi. And then we have the problem where we know we liked something, but we have no idea what it was because I just ordered 7 rolls. So the next time we go for sushi, she's like, hey, order sushi. And I'll be like, hey, what was that thing we liked? And she's like, I don't know. And so we never remember what to order the next time. And we end the next time being like, well, this one was kind of plain. Like, this one wasn't all that great.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I've been out, and my wife and I actually, on Black Friday, we were supposed to go see Wicked, and I told her I'd take her to see it. And everywhere was sold out. They, like, had, like, just front row seats. And I know that's obviously not what you want at a movie theater.
Right,
so,
yeah, it's awful.
And we were also talking about, do we really want to go over to Arundel Mills Mall on Black Friday? Like, do you really want to be there?
Yeah.
So we ended up going to like a happy hour at this nice little hibachi place that has sushi, and went there, sat at the bar, just had a good time. But she ordered a bunch of sushi, and she's like, do you want to try it? And I said, I do this every time, and I don't like it. And the one that stood out to me was Anita Marks ordered a lobster roll, I think at like Raw Sushi downtown.
Okay.
And we had a bunch of people with us, and so I got to try some stuff, even though I just got my chicken teriyaki and was ready for that. So I said, all right, I'm going to try some stuff. And then they got a fried lobster roll. Okay, so lobster roll, it looks great. Start chewing, and I don't know if it's the seaweed taste. I almost threw up all over the table that we had sake bombs in front of us. I knocked it through and just started chugging that damn thing to get the lobster roll to go down. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like it all looks delicious when it comes out. It looks like it's healthy.
I don't think it's healthy. Yeah, I don't think it's healthy at all. I don't think No, I don't think so.
What do you think? Because all the mercury, or
because they just put all sorts of any more. Like I think the idea of like how sushi started was it was healthy. Like now these places just throw like mango ponzu and like all these sauces and stuff on top of it. Like I don't think sushi's healthy anymore. I think those days have come and gone.
Well, I keep trying. Like so, right now, the only type of fish that I eat, like I like Chilean sea bass, but if I went to a restaurant, I'd probably never order it. I'd order something else, and I like certain white fishes.
What about like a tuna steak?
No. Wow. Well, hold on, tuna. So
I will admit to you, I do not like tuna fish. Like I didn't like it as a kid. I like when I smell it because I
hated it more than anything.
Yeah, so my younger son likes tuna fish, and so my wife will make like a tuna melt at home, and when I smell it, I'm just like, oh God, no.
I don't want to say this out loud. If you want to punish me, then you make me eat a tuna fish sandwich because I couldn't get it down.
You were lucky you were not in the league the year we did by far to this day still the worst. I don't know. The peanut butter sandwiches one was way tougher than people realize. But the year that Andrew Stecca had to do shots of tuna fish and sardine juice every 5 minutes for an entire show,
I couldn't do it.
It's by far and away the growth. And by the way, it explains why he's tried to get out of the league every year since. Like that.
Did he throw up?
Did he throw up? I did one shot because I'm a sportsman. So whenever we do these things, I
got to say that about you. Yeah. Like you're like, okay, I'll try this and see how bad it is.
Well, it's also for the sake of the content. Like for the sake of the content, I'm gonna do it, right? Like I'm a sportsman. So I did like one shot and I was puking. Like it is. And we Tim brought in his ice luge. So we did shots off the ice luge of tuna fish and sardine juice. By far.
I would honestly rather you pee down that thing and have me drink it than drink tuna juice.
Well, we can make a side bet this weekend.
Water sports, I'm in.
Oh God.
Well, but yeah, so like it's that type of stuff, man. There's a lot of things I wish I like. I think it's the seaweed primarily. I think I've tried it without it and it still hasn't worked, but I think that's the thing I don't like because whenever my wife gets seaweed salad, I'm dry heaving as soon as she opens that thing.
Love you, buddy. What's going on this week?
This week should be interesting. Oh, I'm going to my first hockey game ever this week.
Oh, why?
I've never been to a hockey game. I'm going to see the Caps play the Bruins.
Are you trying to get into hockey? Like, I know you like betting hockey. Are you trying to get into hockey?
I've been I hate even admit. So I think baseball is my best sport in gambling.
Yeah.
Period. I don't like. I'd put myself up against anybody when it comes to baseball. My second best sport, I think, is the NHL, and I don't understand why. Like, I'm nailing all these totals. I think my last 10 NHL bets, I've lost one. And maybe it is because I'm picking out what I think the best play is, and maybe I don't go a little bit overboard. Like when I see a college basketball slate, I'm like, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this. I start shopping, and then I start crossing them off so I don't have too many games. But the NHL has been great for me. So I got that going on. It's going to be a busy week, Christmas parties, concerts, things like that, and just Rob and I all week long on the show. Until Thursday.
Are you going to the Mix 106 thing? Are you going to Teddy Swims?
Yeah, they gave me good seats.
Oh, I didn't.
So my wife and I are going. Are you going?
I didn't get such an invite. I don't know. I
didn't get an invite. I asked for it.
It's so funny. Someone else not involved with the radio station asked me if I wanted to go. Like they were like, "Hey man, you want to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, Mike. I like Teddy Swims. Like I do. I'm into him. And I hate saying this out loud, but dude, in 2006, I freaking loved the Fray. Like I was all in on the Fray. So.
Well, I tell people this all the time. The first time I had anal sex was the Fray was playing in the background, but my uncle was a very giving lover.
He was.
So, yeah.
He was so That's Jeremy Conn, ladies and gentlemen. Concrete Lock Stock. Nope, we can't do anything better than that. J Conn Sports is how you follow him on Twitter. Love you, pal. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Love you, man. I'll see you.
See you, bud. Jeremy Conn. Oh, man. All right. That's that. You want to quickly go over picks because we have to?
Yeah, sure.
Picks
we take our time, but
Picks recap brought to you by this one's brought to you by the Governor's Challenge. I was doing a lot of high school basketball. I got some great stuff this weekend. Although I did not get to do the game. There was a game at our event this weekend where Chris Jeffrey, Mount Zion Prep, who's headed to play at Maryland next year, game-winning half-court buzzer-beating three.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And I missed out on that. That one was the only one that I was like, damn. How is that the game that I wasn't doing? It was like the first game of the day. The top high school basketball talent from across the country returns to the Wacomico Civic Center December 26th through 30th. Witness 5 full days of elite competition featuring over 140 high school basketball teams. For tickets and info, visit govchallenge.org. Yeah. All right, let's go over it. 3 college games that we picked this weekend. I have a lot of things to say about my picks. I think this pen, the Marines gave the radio station all these pens, so I took like 12 of them because we always need pens. This one, the tip doesn't want to come out. See, I'm like twisting it. And it's just like it gives me this little bitty.
Sure, it's not one of the.
No, it's definitely not that.
Okay, just want to make sure we didn't try that.
It's a twist because I've got another one somewhere around here, and it does work.
Been working at all
correctly. This one apparently just started. So here's what it's supposed to. This is important.
5 pens in
dude.
Pocket.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's totally functional. Yeah. That one's fine. This one, nothing. You fix it. You work on that. It's a you problem now. That's going to be your assignment.
And then I win this pen if I.
You want the pen?
If I win the challenge.
We keep it in the studio. If you win the challenge, the pen stays in the studio. It won't go back in my pocket. All right, it stays in the studio at that point. First college game that we picked from the week was the. Sorry, I got to pull it back up. The SEC championship game, Georgia and Texas. And I said,
he wants to come out.
In my heart of hearts, Georgia's the better team. And they pounded Texas when they played them earlier this season. Why would anybody pick Texas? But because I was picking against myself, I had to switch my pick and go with Texas. And look, man, when it got to overtime, I was like, all right, it's only a 2.5-point line. I can still come out on top. Carson Beck's hurt. So I still got a chance in this. I've just lost Griffin. He's only pen now. It's just
you're doing a good job so far.
It's only the pen. And, of course, Georgia goes and scores in their first. Do we know the story on Carson Beck for the playoff?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like,
even
if he is healthy, like, is that the thing?
Do we know if there's right? Like, if there's a...
I don't know what
kind of don't want it to be Carson Beck. I don't know the story. But, anyway, the moral of all of this is that, in the end, Georgia wins in overtime, so Texas does not cover. And despite me knowing that was the correct pick, I don't get it. And we go Griffin. Who was on Texas? Myself, John Proctor, KZ, Kyle, and Paul were all on Texas. Clemson, SMU, exact same story. In my heart of hearts, Clemson better than SMU. So I had to pick SMU. Same scenario. They tie it up late. I'm like, all right.
Here we go.
Again, the line's just 2.5, so I could steal this one. Sure enough, they can't cover a kick. For whatever reason, they are there. And while no one in the NFL currently has a kicker, somehow Clemson has a kicker. Nobody in the NFL can make a kick. Clemson's like, we Gucci. So in fact, on the broadcast, they said they have 2 kickers that they trust to make long kicks. I'm like, what the hell is – what world is this? Clemson wins at the buzzer, steals a spot. Griffin was right all along. All they were thinking about going into South Carolina is how they were going to backdoor their way into the college football playoff.
Yeah, told you.
Right all along. Nailed that one. Nailed it. It was insane when it came out of his mouth, but crazy like a fox. Clemson's in. On SMU, we were split on that one. Griffin and I were on SMU. Joe and John from Little Rock, KZ and Kyle.
They think it's a UCL injury with Carson Beck, by the way. Nothing confirmed or
that doesn't sound promising for his availability for the college football playoff.
It does not.
Although they do
get
they do get the bye now. Yeah. I cannot. By the way, Penn State was actually more competitive against Oregon than I expected them to be, and it still really wasn't competitive. That was the only game all week that I refused. I flatly refused. That line was so stupid that I would not participate in it. I stuck with my own pick.
Well done.
Should have done it more frequently during the course of picks. Penn State, indeed. Game, but not really. They looked exactly like you would expect a Penn State team to look. Like, we can look okay, but are we going to win a big game? No, that's not happening. Oregon wins the Big Ten. Only Andrew Stetka and Jeremy Conn bet against the public with Penn State. Green Bay, Detroit was a wash, as Detroit indeed won by 3 points with the ballsy decision to go for it late. Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Again, I thought to myself, this ain't happening twice. It's not happening twice. Pittsburgh, it made sense that they lost the first one. They were still high off their win over the Ravens.
Right,
short week, snow, all of that. It made sense. And not even that I thought they were going to lose the first one, but just that I thought it was going to be close, right? And it turns out they lost. Because of that, there was no way that this game was going anything other than Pittsburgh. So, of course, I had to pick Cleveland.
And then George Pickens gets ruled out, and you're like,
I think there might be something there. But, look, man, I have to acknowledge, Pittsburgh's – I had been reluctant the whole time to think that they're a viable Super Bowl contender. But they are what they are now. They're a viable Super Bowl contender. I was on Cleveland. Not really, but I had to be. Andrew Stetka, Kyle Ottenheimer, Jeremy Conn, and Joe Serpico. This one I would have been wrong about. However, I thought it was going to be a Kirk Cousins revenge game, at least to stay close. It was not. The Vikings looked as good offensively as they've looked all season as they roll the Falcons. So thankfully, I did switch my pick in that one. Jeremy, Joe, John in Little Rock, Kyle, and Paul were all on Atlanta in that game. Seattle, Arizona. As I said, I was out on Arizona. You can't come off the bye and score 6 points and get me to believe in you again. So I had to pick them.
Oh, man, how'd that go?
Stupid. That should have been a Penn State thing. It should have been I'm not doing this. Idiot. But it wasn't just me.
Love Zach Charbonnet, too.
Myself. Well, so what's the story on Walker? Is he going to
I don't know. I didn't know that he was even supposed to miss a game.
Thank God I checked my team before kickoff yesterday, and that was a league where I got Garendo and wasn't going to play him. So huge win for your boy. That Kenneth Walker checked at 12:45, saw that Walker was out, switched Garendo in, and big win. Anyway, myself, James Revere, Joe Serpico, John in Little Rock, Kyle, and Ryan all in Arizona. This is another one that I smelled coming from a mile away.
Well, at least you didn't lose too much because a lot of people were on the.
Yeah, but you don't understand. I just realizing I wouldn't have gone 5-3. I would have gone 6-2 because I didn't flip Penn State. I had that right along. I would have gone 6-2 on my picks this week. My picks were 6-2 this week.
That would have been the high mark.
Son of a bitch.
So you would have.
I went 3-5.
Well, the thing is, Paul did well, so you.
Yeah, I'm aware. I went 3-5 because I switched my picks. If I would have just made my picks, I would have been 6-2.
I mean, could you imagine if Green Bay got a stop on one of those fourth downs?
Jesus. Well, but I wouldn't have picked Green Bay. I would have picked Detroit.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, so never mind.
Yeah, wouldn't matter. Buffalo. I just knew there was going to be a hangover. Now, as it turns out, the hangover lasted for a while, and then all of a sudden they were like, right, we're Buffalo. What are we doing here? And it turned out to be an absolute thriller. Great day to start Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp.
Or really anyone, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, really, Puka Nacua was the big one. Like, that was a tremendous the league that I'm in with Puka Nacua. What?
Is he the best receiver, in football?
What are you about to say? No. Stop.
Come on.
He's really good, dude.
He is.
Like, no.
But he does it.
Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson are the two best receivers in football.
Yeah, you're probably right.
They're definitely the two best receivers in football. If you want to say where does the conversation go after that, Tyreek Hill is probably the answer.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the number 3. So then the conversation, I think, starts at 4, and it's some combination of A.J. Brown. I don't know what, and that's the thing. Like Devontae Adams, I don't know what to make of this season. Like, are we seeing now Devontae Adams? Like DeAndre Hopkins is, I think we're all confident on the tail end and can't be in the conversation anymore. I think that's where we're getting with Devontae Adams. So we have to take him out of the conversation. So then you could start having that chat about where Puka fits in. Nico Collins early in the year looked like he was in that conversation, and he might still be in that conversation. I still think you can't ignore Mike Evans when we talk about this topic. Like, every time, and what George Pickens is doing, man, like, it's nuts. Anyway, 5 is where I think you can start the conversation for Puka Nacua. Like, and I think then it's even a debate, but 5 would be where the conversation would start. Anyway, moral of the story is Buffalo loses, although they scored 42 points in a loss. It's crazy. Only 2 on the Rams, Jeremy Conn and Paul Valley. So that's really hurtful for me, because I would have been on the Rams. And then the Chargers and Chiefs. Now, in fairness, I would have gotten this one wrong.
Yeah.
One of the 2 that I would have gotten wrong if I had made my picks. But I was on.
A lone wolf win for Andrew Stecca then, if
That's a great point. Yeah, it would have been. The Chargers were they did nothing in the first half. They could not move the football 6 inches in the first half. It was awful. Had that on as we were driving home last night. I'm like, this is pathetic. They couldn't football for a half. And then all of a sudden they were like, maybe we just Justin Herbert this. I mean, they do have a problem with their run game. Like, I love Gus Edwards, but they have a run problem. Like, they can't run the ball right now without
crazy
J.K.
how badly
Dobbins.
they need Dobbins back.
Yeah, they can't run the ball. But they just started throwing the ball around and it worked. And then they couldn't stop. The Chiefs are going to do. So this was I ended up, somebody retweeted it, ended up getting tweeted around. One of the VSiN guys retweeted this. I am still confused as to why 3rd and inches on the Chiefs' last drive. Why do you not just jump off sides if you're the Chargers?
Oh, okay.
And the easy answer everyone gives is because they're going to decline the penalty. And maybe, right? Like, you might be right that they're going to decline the penalty. I don't know that they're going to, because they still have to convert that 3rd down. Like, you must convert 3rd down if you're going to suck all the clock away. And so if they decline the penalty, they're kind of flirting with they're spitting in the face of God a little bit. Like, we don't think there's any way anything could go wrong here. There's no way that we could possibly have a snap issue, or we could jump off sides on the next play and end up being in 3rd and 6 instead of 3rd and a foot. And it's easy to say, well, the Chargers are thinking all of those things too, except this is where we always come back to, but offense always has the advantage. In the NFL, the offense has the advantage over the defense. On every play, it's 60-40 in favor of the offense. I would always rather face 1st and 10 than 3rd and inches. Just jump off sides, save yourself a timeout, give yourself 3 plays to try to get another stop with the extra timeout. Now you got 2 timeouts and still the 2-minute warning. Now the Chiefs are so good at understanding these things. Like, don't go out of bounds. Don't Like, we know exactly what we're trying to do. We're getting into field goal range, and then we're kicking the ball. We're not letting you. We have perfected. It's hilarious because Andy Reid used to be the worst game coach in the history of football, and now he's become the guy that we all look to. They know exactly what to do in this spot. They might even tell, I don't remember if it was, I think it was Pacheco, like, if you can go down 5 inches, but don't try to fight for the first down. Let us run another play so we can run more clock. They perfect these things. So maybe they would have declined the penalty anyway. But if you're the Chargers, 1, you at least got to try. And 2, I don't know that they do. Because you have to get the first down still. And being given the first down, it's a tough thing to say no to. And yet, still, they still have to get the luck of a fortunate bounce off the goalpost.
Doink for the division.
Doink for the division. I like Mike Tirico. What do you make of all of it? Like, some of it they make their own luck, right? Like, they are better in the margins than other teams are. They're not a great team. They're really good in the margins. They don't deconstruct when everyone else deconstructs. When everyone else is getting game-altering penalties at the end of games, they don't do it. They're not exceptional. They're exceptionally good at that. Does that explain the luck of that ball hitting the upright and going in versus... No, it doesn't. Everything else could remain the same. If that ball shifts 2 centimeters left, then they lose the game last night. They make a lot of their own luck, and we have to acknowledge that. And we have to stop. Like, I in a weird way, I'm glad the Bills lost, because we have been spitting in the face of God by saying the Bills were definitively the team to beat in the AFC. It's always the Chiefs. Stop. I get it. We all see the same thing. We think they're vulnerable. But until you do it, the answer is the Chiefs. Because as mid as they appear to be, no one's better at figuring out how to win football games. In those moments, that play to Kelsey, or was it to Gray? The last third down pickup. Last third down pickup.
Yeah, it's Kelsey, wide open.
Well, he wasn't wide open. He was wide open because he came back and saw that Mahomes was in trouble and needed to make himself available. And his knees were on the ground as he caught the football. It was nothing about that was the way the play was called. It was 2 guys improvising that have been doing it together for a long time and know exactly what to do in those moments.
Someone shared the Chargers ready because it's Jeremiah and
Daniel Jeremiah and Matt Money Smith.
Yeah, Matt Money Smith, and they shared they just pulled the entire final 5 minutes of the
but
the
they
game,
just,
and it was just them
they
being
know.
Yeah,
they know.
They were just like, wow.
They know.
Why did we think this would go any different?
They know. Everyone knows. They're always the team to beat, and we always do this every year. Well, the Ravens look really good. Oh, the Bills are unstoppable. Stop it. One team knows exactly what to do when the game is on the line. One. They're the team to beat. They look vulnerable. They look like a team you can beat. Now go beat them.
I mean, to your point, they're very good in the margins, so they make sure they play every single game.
In the margins.
Yeah.
I'm 5 games back at the bottom of the table now. 5 games.
So
I would have been back within 2.
25 games.
If I made my picks, I would have been back within 2.
This is like the Chicago White Sox.
I'm 5 games back. I don't know what to do next week. My pick stunk, and then picking against myself stunk. I'm effing cursed. Whatever, man. At the top of the table, Ryan's 3 games up on KZ. He got a game on him, so there's that. All right, we'll come back in. We'll do tidbit and tubular because we are. Well, there was a lot of sports to talk about though this weekend. There was a lot going on. Some days I'm like, how did we do 3 hours today? Today, I get it. There was a lot to go over. We'll come back in. We'll wrap it up. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an easy pass from from driveeasymd.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your EasyPass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your EasyPass account. Learn more at driveeasymd.com.
PressBox's Project Game Day is the place to be after every game this season. Join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, Super Bowl 35 champion Femi Ayanbadejo, and our cast of regulars as they break down what happened, why it mattered, and what it means moving forward. You can watch the show at PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay or PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Project Game Day is brought to you by the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson and Canton, EasyPass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. So join us for Project Game Day after every game day this football season at PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The top high school basketball talent from across the country returns to the Wycomico Civic Center December 26th through 30th for the Governor's Challenge presented by Pohanka of Salisbury. Witness 5 full days of elite competition featuring over 140 high school basketball teams from 16 states plus Canada. Multiple top 10 teams and nationally ranked players will display their talents on the court. Don't miss the best experience in high school hoops. For tickets and info, visit govchallenge.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here. We lost in the trivia playoffs on Saturday. It was a real bummer. We went to the final question in like 3rd place. We only needed to finish in the top 3. And the question was, it was a good question. It was like, this company once spent $7.5 million to purchase a domain name from the American Farmers Bureau.
How much money did they spend?
Like seven and a half, I want to say. $7.5 million.
To purchase the domain name from a farming company?
From the American Farmers Bureau.
Affleck.
So the crazy part is, I was working with, obviously you're wrong.
Well,
obviously. So what I was working with
sense.
was, did the American Farmers Bureau park like tractors.com, and then John Deere wanted tractors.com. So did John Deere pay $7.5 million? Then I was like, but that would be too easy. So it's got to be something unrelated to farms. So what's a company name whose name sounds like something that would happen on a farm? I'm trying to go that route.
Right.
Like
I was just trying to think of what initials.
Who's got like
AF.
cow and that?
Yeah.
You were on the right track.
Yeah.
Because the answer that we ultimately gave, because I had to depart to go call basketball. So I had to leave as soon as I saw it. I'm like, I don't know, here's my thought, and then I left. One of the guys on our team said, Farmers Bureau, FB, could it be Facebook? And I was like, that's a pretty good answer. I like that. I think we do better. Apparently, they decided to go with Facebook, wagered 0.
Wait.
Wagered no points.
Oh, man.
Correct answer, Facebook.
Wow.
And as soon as I got in the car, I was like, let me see what happens when I go to FB.com. And sure enough, I'm like, damn it, that's the answer. So we were eliminated. Did not make the World Series, unfortunately, because we did not wager anything. There were 2 sports questions, neither of which I knew. One I had more confidence in one than the other. The first one I would say was a 30% confidence. Besides Aaron Judge, who is the only other ever rookie to hit 50 home runs in a season.
Oh man, jeez.
Yeah.
50 as a rookie. Guess I should know it.
I did not, but I came up with it.
Who the heck hit 50?
I knew it was possible. I just didn't know.
Let's go with I don't McGuire.
It's definitely not Mark McGuire. Definitely not Mark
Sosa.
McGuire. No.
Was it a Bonds?
So we were the one that we were like. Somebody else suggested Shohei Ohtani, and that really threw me off. I was like, oh, that would make sense, right? Because he's not really a rookie. Like that would make all the sense in the world. And then like at the last second, I remembered Pete Alonso having a monster rookie season, and I was like, and it was
Pete Alonso.
Yeah, we didn't. It was a low wager that we put on it. We put like 2 points on it, but I was like, I feel like Pete Alonso had a crazy. The answer was Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso,
well
the
done,
only other.
Well done.
And then the other one, what trading card company began operations in 1989 and holds an exclusive deal with the NHL and is best known for the famous Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card?
All right. Well, so it sounds almost so obvious. I'll go Tops.
It's definitely not Tops. Tops has definitely been around before 1989.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
trading card company began operations in 1989.
Pokemon.
I don't think Pokemon is a company, is it?
I mean, they do trading cards.
Well, there are Pokemon trading cards.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
I don't think they make
Hasbro.
Oh boy, do you not know any other trading card companies?
Not.
Is that where we're at?
Yeah,
like you're just naming
what
random
other trading
things?
card companies are
Never heard of Fleer or Donruss or more recently Panini has obviously become very popular in this market.
Yeah, all right, this is not my domain whatsoever.
None of those were the answer. This one I actually had it was the first thing I said, and I had a pretty good amount of. I just didn't know anything about the NHL. The NHL part threw me off. I'm like, they have an exclusive NHL deal. Like, how would anybody know?
Nintendo.
No, Upper Deck. Upper Deck was
sure.
the obvious answer.
Sounds like a trading card company.
Came around in 1989.
It's a good name actually.
Right around the time where I was like starting to collect cards, and like I was like, I definitely have a Ken Griffey Jr. Upper
Why
Deck.
is their card like more?
I don't remember, and I don't know what the famous Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card is. I really don't know that part of it. I was like, I don't know, but the 1989 part was the part that made it like clear to me that had to be the answer, and I just decided we would stick it out, despite not knowing about the NHL part. So, yep, that was the answer for that one. Unfortunately, everybody had a rough day. This was a ball busting. Like we went into the final, and I think the leaders had like 40 points. Like it was a ball busting final or ball busting round of trivia. All right, very good tidbit. Let's do it.
The top high school basketball talent from across the country once again returns to the Wycomico Civic Center December 26th through the 30th for the Governor's Challenge, presented by Pohanka of Salisbury. Witness 5 full days of elite competition featuring over 140 high school basketball teams from 16 states plus Canada. Multiple top 10 teams and nationally ranked players will display their talents on the court. Don't miss the best experience in high school hoops. For tickets and information, visit govchallenge.org.
All right. What you got for tidbits?
Josh Allen did have a pretty good day yesterday, despite the Bills losing. Before that, Dante Kaplowitz Fleming. I should learn how to say his name out. He's a good inspiration for a lot of these. But before yesterday, teams that had scored at least 6 touchdowns, had 0 giveaways, 0 turnovers in a game, were 245-0, undefeated.
Wow.
In football.
Wow.
The Bills first to take a loss without turning the ball over and scoring 6 touchdowns.
I mean, like in fairness, that sounds about right.
Yeah. 245-1 now
It's
those
crazy.
teams are.
It's crazy.
So Josh Allen did have the 6 touchdowns, 3 passing, 3 rushing. He is, the big stat going around was he was the first player to do that in a game. I believe regular season is accurate. There is one other player that is in 1954 accomplished this feat in a playoff game.
Sure.
Actually, I think it was a championship. Yeah. December 26th, 1954. Where were you?
Not around. 1954. Y.A. Tittle?
Not Y.A. Tittle.
1954 championship game?
Yeah.
That 54. I don't. Otto Graham?
It was, in fact.
Was
Otto
it really?
Graham. Yep. Jay Kuda was going around on the internet yesterday making sure to reply to every single person that was like the first player ever to do this. And he was like, nope, Otto Graham did it in 1954 against the Detroit Lions. The Browns blew out the Detroit Lions 56-10 back in 1954. So, yeah, shout out Jay Kuda, as always. The Chiefs now, have had they're just kind of flexing in the face of all the Ravens fans. 3 different kickers now to make a game-winning field goal as time expired in the fourth quarter this season.
You're really having a stretch to count last night.
Who are the 3?
Schrader, Wright,
Schrader,
and Bucker.
Yeah, and Bucker. They've all made a game-winning kick now as time expired.
These Ravens fans last week. Well, maybe you just sign Matt Wright. Yeah, that's the guy you want to sign.
Ashton Genty has rushed for 2,288 yards now. He's averaging over 109 yards per game on the ground.
It's another thing that people are fighting about this week. One of these guys is going to win. God bless him. Pretending like your answer trumps the other answer. You can vote for however you'd like to vote, and whoever wins, wins. But all these people that are like, imagine picking the guy who's not the best wide receiver, not the best cornerback, when you could pick the best running. Like, yo, there are really good points. Neither one of these things is more compelling than the other. If you're trying to shame somebody because they think Travis Hunter deserves to win the Heisman because he's doing something that no one else has done before, get the entire F out of here. And if you're the person that's like, how could you possibly – Ashton Genty plays in the Mountain West. How you can sit – dude, we recognize that guy's better than just the league that he's playing in. Like, stop. You're embarrassing yourselves, all of you.
2 other players have hit those marks, 2,200 rushing yards and 190 yards per game on the ground. They both won the Heisman.
I assume one's Barry Sanders.
One is Barry Sanders in 1988.
Who's the other one? Ricky Williams.
Not Ricky Williams.
Ron Dane.
Not Ron Dane. He would have been the first to accomplish this feat, so before Barry.
Before Barry.
Still the 80s, though.
In the 80s. Mm-hmm. In the 80s, before Barry. In the 80s. Marcus Allen?
It was Marcus
Really?
Allen.
Okay.
Yes, Marcus Allen in 1981. 2,000 over 190 yards per game, and also won the Heisman. And then, we can do this. We'll do this. Once Cam Scadaboo, now in the season, has rushed for...
Yeah, that dude's fun. That guy's fun, man.
Over 1,500 yards. Also has 500 receiving yards on the season.
For some reason, all of the TVs at the Trivia Playoffs had the MAC championship game on, so I had to put the Big 12 championship game on my phone, which is then annoying because people are like, are you looking at your phone? Like, no, I'm looking at the football game that for some reason we're not allowed to watch in this establishment because we got to watch Ohio play Miami, Ohio. God bless you, Bobcats. Good, congratulations.
They killed him. Yeah, Timothy Chalamet knew what he was talking about on that one. Maybe you knew about. Well, maybe he knew what he was talking about on all of them.
Okay.
So he becomes the first player to reach 1,500 yards on the ground, 500 yards receiving since first FBS player to do it since 2015.
McCaffrey?
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey.
No
yeah.
I almost said it. I almost said no shit.
Yeah, you can.
Where are the internet? No shit. I was really like.
So a guy did it. A Boise State running back did it in 2014 as well.
Jay
Ajayi had 1,500. Actually, had 1,800 yards on the ground. Chris McCaffrey also, by the way, had 2,000 yards and 600 receiving that year.
How about that?
Jay Ajayi. I'm trying to see if none of the other names really stick out. 1993 from San Diego State. This running back.
1993 from San Diego State.
Mm-hmm.
I know who that is. I remember there being a great running back at San Diego State.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Oh, my God. Why am I blanking on this now? Oh, that was Falk. Marshall Falk.
Marshall
yeah.
Falk. Yep,
God
well done.
damn.
Well done. 1993, Marshall Falk. The first guy, at least on the database that we're using here, to do it was Ryan Benjamin in 1991.
I don't have that one's not filed away in my.
Yeah. Brian Calhoun from the Wisconsin Badgers.
Of course.
2005.
Yes.
2012, Utah State Aggie, Kerwin Williams.
Well, Kerwin Williams actually did play in the NFL.
Yeah,
Like he did have a.
But I don't think you were going to get that one. And then a Middle Tennessee Blue Raider in 2016 did this as well. Itavius Mathers.
I was like, I thought I was. I'm like, why am I forgetting?
Yeah, you don't know. Right. But yeah, Cam Scadaboo does that, and then finally, so Juan Soto now officially becomes the. So this was the first season that Juan Soto had, where he had 40 home runs and 125 walks in a single season. That has happened 42 such times in the history of baseball that a player had.
Say that one more time.
42 times it has happened where a player hit 40 home runs, not 125 home runs. Hit 40 home runs, walked 125 times. Juan Soto will be the first to not return to that same team the following year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did want to look up the most seasons in which a player had 40 home runs, 125 walks.
I mean, Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds has done it multiple times. Not the most seasons though. 7 times Barry Bonds did it. One fella did this 10 times in his career.
How many am I supposed to be getting?
So multiple guys. 8 guys have done it multiple times. Okay. Multiple seasons of 40 and 125 walks.
I mean, Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth is the record holder here. 10 such seasons of 40 home runs and 125 walks.
Mark McGwire.
Mark McGwire did it twice. So yes.
I'm feeling like there's going to be a lot of first basemen on this list. Jeff Bagwell.
Yes, Jeff Bagwell is on the list. Did this twice as well.
Frank Thomas.
No Frank Thomas.
Jim Thome.
Frank Thomas only did it 1 time. Jim Thome, not on the list. 0 times for Jim Thome.
That part is surprising. Are there not as many first basemen as I would have thought?
I guess no, not quite as many.
Right then, how about A-Rod?
No A-Rod.
How about Hank Aaron?
No Hank Aaron.
How about Willie Mays?
No Willie
Albert
Mays.
Pujols?
No Pujols.
How about Ken Griffey Jr.?
No Ken Griffey.
How about?
I guess they're mostly outfielders.
Okay. How about Manny Ramirez? Manny Ramirez.
Not Manny Ramirez.
It's only legally speaking an outfielder. How about Sammy Sosa?
No Sammy Sosa.
Jesus Christ, this is falling apart. I got 4. I need 4 more.
Yeah, you need 4 more.
It's already Mike Trout.
Nope.
Well, I knew that. Gary Sheffield.
Not Gary Sheffield.
Who the hell else hit a lot of home runs?
No, Gary Sheffield. He did do it once, but not multiple times.
Loser.
Yeah.
It's already Aaron Judge.
It is, in fact, already Aaron Judge. Multiple seasons with 40 home runs and 125 walks.
Ay. How about? All right, help me out. It's 12:42. What are we doing? Help me out.
Let's see. What's a good hint here? We got a Yankee.
Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, Mickey Mantle. Multiple times Mickey Mantle has done this. And we have this guy was also a Yankee. Not his entire career, but he was a Yankee.
He was a Yankee, but not for his entire career. He was a Yankee. Was he predominantly a Yankee?
I mean, he won World Series as a Yankee. Or did he? Yeah, he did. Yeah.
This is not great. 1 World Series. Yeah.
I lied. No, he did not win a World Series with the Yankees. Okay. He never won a World Series.
Okay. Never won a World Series. Alfonso Soriano?
Not Alfonso Soriano. Joined the Yankees famously in 2002.
Famously joined them in 2002. Why am I blanking on this? This is dumb. Famously joined the Yankees in 2002. I don't don't know, man.
He was Oakland A before.
Giambi.
Yep.
Wait, I was thinking of an outfielder. Giambi was a first base.
Oh, he was a first base?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now you really.
I was thinking about Jeremy Giambi.
I mean, I guess I should have guessed Giambi anyway, but the outfielder the outfielder thing threw me off.
The other guy and the other guy, the final guy, did it 3 times. He was also an outfielder and played some first base as well.
Also an outfielder who played some first base as well. For who?
He was a Minnesota Twin.
Minnesota Twin. Outfielder who played some first base as well.
Maybe was he a primary third baseman? I guess. All right, I'll just go to Baseball Reference. I'll get the.
Is it Harmon Killebrew?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think he was more of an outfielder, but maybe you're right. Maybe you're.
Yeah, but Harmon Killebrew 3 times. Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, Harmon Killebrew, and then Aaron Judge, Giambi, McGuire, Bagwell, and Mantle. Multiple seasons of the only players with multiple seasons of 40 home runs and 125 walks.
That is a collection of players. Harmon Killebrew played for his career 969 games at first base, 791 games at third base, 471 in the outfield.
So yeah, primary first baseman. All right. Sorry for steering you off.
I did not realize. All right, very good. Let's get tubular.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
You know, John and Little Rock, they got to get rid of automatic buys and just seed the top 12 and then reseed after the first round. I don't know what automatic buys. So you don't give conference champions the automatic buys. Is what you're saying? Like the 4 top.
Yeah. I think they want to do that too. Like it feels like.
Again,
Boise and Arizona State shouldn't be.
Well, see, this is a weird thing to me too. I agree, right? I agree essentially, but this is also getting back to it's just going to be the Big Ten and the SEC, right? Like that's where you're going to get, and when you eventually get there. Also, plus we need on-campus games in the second round. I don't feel as strongly. I know it's going to sound weird. Living in Arizona, where like those bowl games are big deals. It doesn't feel like that to us because like the only bowl game here is the Military Bowl, and it's, with all due respect to NC State, East Carolina, it's very good for the local economy there, but it's not the same thing. These bowl games are a big deal in those communities. Like I know it sounds crazy, and we all want that thing, but I understand why they're trying to work with the bowl games. And these fan bases, the problem is bowl games are always like this fun thing. It was never for championships. It was just a fun reward for the players and for the fans to be able to go, to a cool, warm location. And it's a neat excuse for a trip for fan bases. Like, I want to get somewhere. I'll go out to San Diego in December and see my team play in the Holiday Bowl. And there is something to be said. Like, my father and I have these great memories. Maryland wasn't competing for championships when they were playing in they played in the Orange Bowl, Peach Bowl, and Gator Bowl. And we went to all of them. And they weren't playing for a championship in any of them. But it was awesome. We had these great experiences, making these trips, hanging out with other fans. It was a really fun thing. I don't know that I want to see the bowl games. Like, we've already bastardized them to the point of, like, players aren't playing in any of the other games. This is really how you're trying to save the bowl concept, is by making more of them relevant in this way. I'm torn on this. I get it. We want more on-campus stuff, but the students aren't on campus this time of year. So it does also really take – I'm not saying they'll have any trouble. Like, they'll fill up those seats. Don't get me wrong. But it's not the same thing. So I don't know. It's a weird – I got conflict about that. Also, why is SMU in? Because they're saying the SMU's loss doesn't matter. That's what's going on. They're saying, and I respect that, they're saying the only fair way to do it is to make it so that championship games don't count as losses, because otherwise nobody will want to play them. I mean, that's the reality of it. So I actually have respect for that. Do I think they're definitively one of the 12 best teams? No idea. But I respect the committee saying we're not going to penalize teams over championship games when other teams aren't playing in championship games. I'm good with that. Now you got to better make sure you do that every time, right? Like, it better not be that suddenly next year you're penalizing somebody. Commit to it once you've done it. All right, tonight, nothing. Just the game. Bengals Cowboys, 8:15 on ESPN and ABC, with a Manning cast on ESPN2, and, of course, the Simpsons thing on both ESPN Plus and Disney Plus.
So many options.
For a bad football game.
And this could be how my season ends as well.
5 different ways to watch bad. Oh, what?
I need to win. I need to win by 20 as well is the thing.
Okay.
And,
where you at?
Well, actually, I might, because if somebody else lost, I might be okay. I'm up by 18 right now.
Okay.
Because with DeAndre Hopkins, that touchdown, that didn't help me. I have CeeDee Lamb and Chase Brown, and he's got Joe Burrow, and I'm up by 18. And I need those two to outscore Burrow by about 2 points in order to be
I like your chances,
to clinch, to be
Yeah.
definitive. If somebody else loses, I have another backdoor way in, but I need
It's looking like I'm gonna get in. I'm gonna get in all 4 leagues, but I'm only gonna get a bye in 1. It looks like it's the one I care the least about. It's a press box league.
Yeah. That was the way I was in the. I was like, I needed wins in all of my other leagues to get a bye. It doesn't look like I'm gonna get those buys.
Gonna be good, safe in all 4.
Yeah.
But it doesn't like this. It would take almost. Hang on. There is a path to me getting a bye in the league that I've been in the longest, that I care about the most of my 4 leagues, but it's a convoluted path. Hang on a second. It is. I need this guy. This guy is currently down by 16, and he has Chase Brown left. So
you need him to win.
No, I need him to lose.
He's got you.
So Chase Brown has to get 15 or fewer points.
Gotcha.
And I don't like that. That math don't math. I basically can't have Chase Brown score a touchdown tonight is what this comes down to. If somehow he doesn't score a touchdown, I have a chance. If he scores a touchdown, I'm screwed. So I'll be monitoring that this evening. Big Ten Network, Minnesota, Indiana at 6:30. There's basically no college basketball this week.
I know.
It sucks. And we need it. There's nothing else.
Going on this week.
NBA TV, Knicks, Raptors, 7:30. NHL Network, Blackhawks, Rangers at 7. USA, West Ham, and Wolverhampton at 3 o'clock. Then WWE
That's why
Monday
they didn't
Night
want to
Raw.
complete with the NBA Cup.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, the knockout rounds start tomorrow night. Big deal. Non-sports.
Not really. Kimmel's got a nice show after the football. Jason Bateman, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and 50 Cent all together.
Now they are plugging Christmas.
They're all the new Avengers, actually.
They're afraid that people don't know about Christmas, so they're just there.
Actually, looks like a pretty good movie. Bateman is on. It's called Carry On Netflix. Comes out Friday with Taron Egerton, where he's Taron Egerton. By the way, is on. He's on Seth Meyers tonight as well. So they're all plugging. They're plugging this Netflix movie. It's like a young TSA agent. Taron Egerton is going to be outsmarted by this mysterious traveler who's Jason Bateman, who's trying to blackmail him into letting a dangerous package slip through TSA and onto a flight, and it looks pretty solid actually. Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, big Christmas thriller for everyone.
All right.
And then Aaron Taylor Johnson's obviously Craven the Hunter.
Right. Yeah.
Because everyone needs to go see
the Baltimore
that.
Cravens.
Yeah, the Baltimore Cravens.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Good.
Christian Slater and
we've been on for
Keira
5
Knightley
hours.
will be on Fallon.
You figured it out. I like that.
I always had it figured out.
Yeah, sure you did. Thanks, everybody. Thanks today to Lou Merloni. Thanks also to Marty Mornhinweg and to Jeremy Conn. We'll get it up in the greatest hits section of the
Can You Take Me Higher
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow on the program,
Find a new one because I don't know.
You're not committed to it. You don't like it.
I mean, I like it sometimes, but doing it every day.
Okay. Tomorrow, regular Tuesday stuff. Patrick Stevens joins us. Joe Serpico will help preview playoff round 1. Stuff and things. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including the Governor's Challenge, as well as Live Casino and Hotel. Visit Hartford, Cruise, Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costas and MSAA, Maryland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. Go nobody. Go not Chase Brown selfishly, but it's not for anybody else. Duke sucks.